Chapter 195. The first team that arrived at the whistling place didn't go there, because there were many carnivorous birds eating there. Roughly estimated, there were at least 20 birds. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Looking at the fierce appearance of those big birds fighting for food, they knew it was not easy to deal with them. The leader made a gesture to signal everyone to retreat carefully. They thought they had found the people the shaman and the chief talked about, but they didn't expect to see a flock of carnivorous birds. However, they ignored the Wuxia beasts. The Wuxia beasts were the ferocious beasts that were carefully selected. Most of the time, they would bite their enemies even if they couldn't defeat them. They were different from the animals that had been successfully branded and tamed. They were not very obedient, and they didn't cooperate well with the people of the Wuxia tribe. When they were wild, no one could control them. Noticing that there were many carnivorous birds in front of them, the 4 Wuxia beasts that came over all growled. They pulled the straw ropes and wanted to rush over. As soon as the Wuxia beasts roared, the people in the team knew they were in trouble. At this time, they wanted to poke several holes in the Wuxia beasts with their stone knives. But even if they were angry, it didn't help. The carnivorous birds that couldn't get food over there had noticed the people hiding here. They shouted excitedly and rushed to the people hiding behind the bushes. When one of them moved, the others also rushed over, and then more carnivorous birds followed. The leader couldn't help cursing. He didn't care about hiding anymore. Retreat. The plants here were mainly bushes and weeds. Whether it was the bushes or the surrounding weeds, they were all more than 2 meters tall and grew densely. Even if he wanted to guard his feet before, when he was chased by the group of carnivorous birds, he didn't have much energy to pay attention to it when he started to speed up. Ah! A man's foot was entangled by something. He fell down and felt a pain in his foot. When he saw clearly what was on his foot, he cut off the vine that entangled his foot. When he started to run again, he slowed down a lot. Soon, he was surrounded by the carnivorous birds that rushed over quickly. Some people brandished their swords at the carnivorous birds, but not only did they fail to chase the birds away, but they also provoked the birds' bloodlust, and they chased and pecked even more fiercely. There was more than one person who had stepped on the traps in the bushes. Here, one would not be tied up and hung from the trees. The simple traps made of vines that were similar in color to the weeds would only cause those who were trying to escape to stumble. The poison on the vines was not fatal, but at this time, it was almost like a death sentence. Some were slapped to the ground by its claws, some were sent flying by its head, and some were killed by its beak. No matter how fierce the 4 Wuxia beasts were, they couldn't withstand the attack of the birds. Seeing the Wuxia beasts break into their territory, the birds were angry. They were as fierce as the Wuxia beasts bred by the Wuxia tribe. For a moment, the sounds of people shouting, birds chirping, and beasts roaring continuously rang out. Ever since the previous squad, this squad had also tasted the tragedy of losing a third of their members in a short period of time. Climb the tree. Find a tall tree and climb up. Out of the weeds, they saw the woods in front of them. Everyone was happy. As long as they climbed up the tall trees, these birds that could not fly would not be able to do anything to them. When a warrior was about to climb up, his hand had already grasped the branch, but a wooden thorn shot out from nowhere and pierced his hand. The numbness and pain in his hand made him lose his grip and fall down. Then he was trampled on the ground by the carnivorous birds that chased after him. There are people around. Be alert. The leader's eyes flashed and he glanced at the surrounding woods. A man who had climbed up the tree was pierced by a wooden thorn in his leg. He quickly pulled it out and felt a numbness and pain in his leg. Fortunately, he was now in the tree and did not fall down. Just when he was thinking about this, he caught a glimpse of a figure flashing by. Be careful. The leader reminded him. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. By the time he rushed over, that person had already been stabbed and was no longer breathing. There were already 7 carnivorous birds below. They still had more than 10 people. They did have the advantage in numbers. If they really fought, they might not lose. But now, no one wanted to fight with these birds. Moreover, there were other people hiding around, ready to kill at any time. The leader made a prompt decision. Go from the tree. The trees were not too far apart. With their ability, jumping from tree to tree was still possible. Be careful, there might be. Before the leader could finish his words, he heard a slight buzzing sound, like the sound of a thin thread being flicked. When someone jumped from the tree, he touched a thin thread that was not easy to notice. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Wooden thorns that were half an arm's length shot out from the leaves and grass towards the people who were jumping between the trees. They had to use their swords to block the wooden thorns. If someone was not careful and got stabbed, he would be targeted by the carnivorous birds after falling down. After dodging the wooden thorns with great difficulty, just as he steadied himself on a branch, he was stabbed by someone who quietly approached him. The leader of the group widened his eyes filled with shock. He saw Xiaofan's appearance, but he couldn't recognize which tribe the totem patterns on Xiaofan's body belonged to. But he could see that Xiaofan was very young. Which tribe are you from? The leader's back was covered with a layer of cold sweat. Such a young and powerful person couldn't be from a small tribe. Just like the leader of the previous team, the leader's first thought was the 8 Limbs tribe. But the totem patterns of the 8 Limbs tribe were not like this. Who on earth was he? While the leader was still in shock, Xiaofan bent his right knee slightly, and the soles of his feet stomped on the branches. Like a fierce tiger coming down from the mountain, he quickly rushed towards the leader. The stone knife was like lightning in the air, as if it could tear anything apart. Facing Xiaofan's beast-like eyes, which were full of killing intent, the leader suppressed his shock and raised his arm holding the sword to block it. Bang! The leader felt a burning pain from his palm holding the sword, and the force from the sword shook his whole arm as if it was going to break. And because of the sudden force, in order to stabilize himself, he exerted force under his feet. The branch couldn't bear it and broke with a crack. What a strong force! Which tribe on earth had such great strength, which was not weaker than the Wuxia tribe at all? Moreover, was there only one person hiding around, or were there many people? The leader was more inclined to believe the latter. After all, no matter how strong a person was, the person in front of him was so young, so he shouldn't be able to kill the 20 people of the previous team. If there were many people hiding around, plus the ferocious beasts in the forest that could appear at any time, the more he thought, the more the leader of the second team showed fear in his eyes. No, he had to go back first. After falling to the ground because of the broken branch, he saw the carnivorous birds rushing over again. Ignoring the others who didn't follow him, the leader shouted and turned around to run away. In that direction, the other team should be coming over as well. They just wanted to get away from here as soon as possible. Someone whistled, hoping that the other teams would come to help. After the strike, Xiaofan didn't continue to chase them. Instead, he jumped into the forest and soon disappeared. The leader and several soldiers who were still alive ran for a while and didn't hear the birds again, so they slowed down a little. But it was too early for them to be relieved. A roar suddenly sounded, and a figure nearly 4 meters high rushed out from behind the forest. The people who thought they had just escaped a disaster felt as if they were thrown into a cold river in winter, chilling them to the bone. Ferocious beasts again. The bear waved its huge paw and gave these people a surprise attack. The soldier closest to it was directly sent flying, spitting out blood as he flew. It followed the delicious honey and came here. It heard the sounds of the big birds and also heard the voices of the people. It always thought that this area was its territory. Those birds were not a big deal, but these people of the Wuxia tribe were completely strange to it, and it regarded them as intruders. Of course, it was angry that its territory was invaded. So, after hearing the noise and smelling the smell, it ambushed here. When the prey came to its door, it rushed out. As one of the ferocious beasts that could play dead and use tricks, the Yanjiao tribesmen were always afraid of the giant bear's lethality. When hunting, they mostly avoided the giant bear's place and only occasionally hunted one. For the people of the Wuxia tribe who didn't often fight with ferocious beasts, it was a nightmare. After slapping away one person and biting two to death, it was cut several times on its body, which made it even angrier. Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 spears were shot at the bear. It was the third team. The bear dodged 1 spear, but 2 spears were stuck in its body, but it wasn't seriously injured. If it hadn't dodged in time, its vital parts would have been hurt. Roaring, it didn't attack those people. Instead, it turned around and ran away. If it couldn't beat them, it had to run away. 4 Wuxia beasts were chasing it. While dodging the spears and arrows shot by the warriors of the Wuxia tribe, it also had to deal with the 4 Wuxia beasts, so it got more and more injuries. The spears and arrows were poisoned, but because of its strong resistance to poison, it could resist for a while, but it was hard to say whether it would survive for a long time. "Let's kill it," a warrior of the Wuxia tribe said. Even if they didn't find the person mentioned by the shaman and the chief, they could bring back a ferocious beast, which could at least reduce the chief's anger. "Kill," the leader of the third team finally said. They didn't dare to provoke the ferocious beasts in the forest, but now this ferocious beast was injured and they met it. No matter what happened to the people of the other 2 teams, this ferocious beast must be theirs. "Kill." Seeing that the bear still wanted to run away, the warriors of the Wuxia tribe hurried to catch up with it. It was rare to meet such an injured ferocious beast, so they had to kill it. More than 20 people rushed over, plus several warriors of the second team who were still alive, all chased after the bear. They thought that they would kill the bear first, and then find the person hiding in the forest. Xiaofan stood on a tree, using the dense branches to hide his figure, watching those people chasing the bear. He looked at the sky and counted the time in his heart. After a few breaths, Xiaofan looked in the direction of those people. A roar that was different from the previous bear's roar almost shook the entire forest. The reason why the ferocious beast was called a giant bear was that it was not only 3 or 4 meters long. This was just a baby bear. Generally speaking, such a baby bear was likely to be guarded by a mother bear. Xiaofan had found a bigger bear paw print in a place before. That kind of giant bear was not only smart, but also vengeful. When it was really angry, it would hysterically chase and kill. Chapter 196. Many people went there, but some didn't follow them. Compared to fighting against the ferocious beasts, they valued their own lives more. Even if they were a little hesitant, after hearing the roar, they could guess what happened to the people who went there. Fortunately, they didn't follow them. Taking a deep breath, the people hiding in the bushes rejoiced for their choice. Xiaofan, who had already sneaked in, jumped down from the branch and chopped down with his stone knife. Another person fell down. Xiaofan counted in his heart, and the stone knife in his hand cut horizontally to the side, cutting a biting snake into 2 halves. Without looking at the 2 parts of the snake's body and the dead man on the ground, Xiaofan went to the giant bear. Over there, the bear with many bites on its body and several spears and arrowheads stuck in its body was lying on the ground. It howled at the giant bear that was rushing over, and then bared its teeth and roared at the direction of the people of the Wuxia tribe, as if it was telling the mother bear that was rushing over, "Mother, they bullied me." The giant bear, who had always thought that it was the king of this forest, was furious, and crazy. Its murderous aura could be felt from far away. The other wild beasts and ferocious beasts in the surrounding forest all avoided it. Even the group of carnivorous birds obediently retreated back to their nest. After tearing a Wuxia beast, the giant bear's mouth was full of blood. The blood of the Wuxia beast dyed the 4 arrogant canine teeth red, and the blood dripped down. When it roared, some blood fog came out of its mouth, which was the blood of humans and Wuxia beasts. When the giant bear was angry, the hunting group of the Yanjiao tribe would absolutely avoid it. The people of the Wuxia tribe who were targeted by the giant bear were almost killed by its paws. Run in different directions. The leader roared. In the ferocious beasts' mountain forest, they were most afraid of encountering ferocious beasts. If it were ordinary ferocious beasts, they could try to kill them. But the giant bear in front of them, they didn't dare to fight with it. They could only run for their lives. Those who remained would all be wiped out one by one. Run. At a time like this, they didn't have to run very fast. As long as they were faster than the others, they would be safer. Everyone in the Wuxia tribe knew this. A warrior of the Wuxia tribe, who was running in the front, had never felt so lucky about his speed advantage. His strength was not greater than others, but in terms of speed, even the leader might not be faster than him. When this person ran away from the forest and passed by a slightly open area, a figure suddenly flashed across the sky and caught the person who was running quickly. The man felt as if he was being bound by a hard rock, and no matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. Poof! The sharp claws pierced through his body, and before he died, he saw the creature that had grabbed him. Unexpectedly, after dodging the giant bear, he fell into the claws of another ferocious beast. If he had a choice, he would definitely not enter this forest. However, he had no other choice. Those who scattered to escape were harvested by Xiaofan and Cha. One day later. Bang! Stone swords collided with stone swords. Although the swords didn't crack, stone powder burst out from the collision and splashed around. Xiaofan's perlicue was torn by the impact and vibration of the swords, and blood flowed down along the handle. A figure flashed across the sky. Because of this, the opponent paused a little, guarding against the attack in the air. Xiaofan didn't pay attention to the wound on his hand. He twisted his ankle, bounced up, and made another powerful chop. When the swords passed through the air, they made a small whistling sound. Feeling the brutal force from the swords, the people in front of Xiaofan had all kinds of guesses in their hearts. Fast, brutal force, fierce attack, who on earth was this guy? 5 teams, more than 100 people, and nearly 20 Wuxia beasts. Now, how many were left? After the first slash, Xiaofan continued with the second slash, the third slash, the fourth slash. Slash after slash, he had to disrupt his opponent's movements before he calmed down. At the same time, he had to let Cha create some trouble in the air from time to divert his attention. Only then could he create an opening. Only by seizing that opening could he have a chance to win. Because of the chop, Xiaofan felt that his arm holding the swords was about to break. Bang! Cha in the air was also anxious, and wanted to rush down. The opponent noticed the movement in the air, and paused for a very short time again. Now was the time. Xiaofan shook his wrist. This time, he didn't chop, but shot out the sword in his hand like a stone arrowhead. The opponent reacted quickly. He quickly stepped back, and blocked the tip of the sword with the body of his sword. But when Xiaofan shot out the stone sword, he took a step forward, and the ground under his feet sank instantly. Grabbing the handle of the stone sword that was blocked, Xiaofan didn't care about the sword coming from the left. He chopped at the opponent as if he wanted to die together with him. Fast. Xiaofan felt that this chop was faster than any chop he had made before. Even though his hand was lacerated and his arm bones were about to break, he still felt that this chop was the fastest chop he had made since the beginning of the hunt. He could feel that his control of the stone sword was more skillful and precise. Puff! Blood spurted out from the side of the opponent's neck. Xiaofan moved his body slightly, and his chest was hit by the opponent's horizontal chop. The opponent widened his eyes. He had hit him several times, but why didn't this guy get hurt? Another chop. Xiaofan looked at the dead man on the ground and shook off the blood on his stone sword. The man on the ground was the leader of the fourth team of the Wuxia tribe. Different from the previous ones, this man was a senior totem warrior. Xiaofan had to take advantage of the disturbance of the giant bear to launch several sneak attacks to get some results. Although the Wuxia tribe didn't have a good reputation, they were still powerful enough to be called one of the strongest tribes in the central region. Senior totem warriors were much more difficult to deal with than intermediate totem warriors. Xiaofan's arms and calves were covered with cuts. Only the part from his torso to his knees, his animal skin coat and trousers had many cuts, but he didn't bleed much. Even the last chop from the opponent didn't make Xiaofan bleed. Xiaofan opened a cut on his animal skin coat and looked at the specially sewn leather coat inside. It was made from the skin of the insects he caught when he went to the Eagle Mountain with Cha-Cha. He was the one who had blocked the most dangerous attacks. When Xiaofan picked up the insect skin, he didn't expect it to have such an effect. However, although he blocked those cuts and wasn't hurt, he suffered a lot of internal injuries. Some of his ribs were also broken. Quietly looking at the man on the ground, Xiaofan felt the internal and external injuries caused by the bloody battle in the past 2 days. After this incident, he knew that he still had many shortcomings and couldn't underestimate anyone. If there were 2 more senior totem warriors, the result would be completely different. The smell of blood had spread in the air. Xiaofan touched the wound on his arm, raised his head to look at the sky, and walked into the woods. Soon, there was not much left. Not long after, he saw the people of the Wuxia tribe fleeing in different directions. Holding a knife, Xiaofan rushed up before they attacked. 1, 2, 3, he hadn't rested for 2 days and 1 night. If it weren't for his strong body, he wouldn't have been able to continue such a bloody battle until now. When the sun began to set over the mountains again, Xiaofan was covered with blood, holding a knife and walking in the direction of the old haunt. The knife left by the ancestors might be made of superior stone, but after a battle, it was inevitable that there would be many marks on the knife, and there were many nicks of different sizes on the blade. He had to find a good whetstone to polish it again. Xiaofan thought. In the air, Cha-Cha looked around vigilantly. Although most of those annoying people had been killed, he still had to be careful. Now Xiaofan didn't have much strength. Looking at the standing stone not far away, Xiaofan walked over and put his bloody palm on the part of the stone where the moss had been removed, next to the 2 words, Yanjiao. Taking a deep breath, Xiaofan sighed and took back his hand. He caught a fruit thrown by Cha-Cha and ate it to moisten his dry throat. He simply applied the herbs he found to his wounds, rubbed his aching chest and stomach, and guessed how serious his internal injuries were. Looking around, Xiaofan walked quickly towards the direction of the fire pit in the center of the old haunt. On the side of the Wuxia tribe, the chief stood at the border of the tribe with a gloomy face, looking in the direction of the ferocious beasts' mountain forest. Next to him, the shaman of the tribe also stood quietly with a gloomy face. Since yesterday, people came back from the ferocious beasts' mountain forest one after another, all wounded and embarrassed. They didn't bring back any useful information. Some said they were scared by the ferocious beasts, and some said they were chased by people hiding in the forest. No matter which one it was, it cast a shadow over the hearts of the people of the Wuxia tribe. The joy of winning the war with the other tribes not long ago was gone. In front of them, another person staggered back. The chief signaled several people around to bring him over. How many? The shaman asked. 6. The chief's face became gloomier. More than 100 people, but now only 6 came back. Moreover, there was no chief among them. None of the Wuxia beasts came back. Looking at the man who was brought over, the chief of the Wuxia tribe strode to him. Seeing the chief's face, the man trembled. He was frightened by what happened in the forest, and now facing the chief's face, he was scared out of his wits. The chief didn't care how the man trembled, and asked a few questions. He had asked the same questions to the people who came back before, but no matter the people who came back before or now, they all had the same answer. Who was the other party? Oh, he didn't know. What did the other party look like? Oh, he didn't know either. Was the other party a human or a ferocious beast? Oh, he still didn't know. More than 100 people, but less than 10 came back. Moreover, he didn't even know whether the other party was a human or a beast. When the chief was angry, he didn't say a word, but directly hit. No, this time he directly kicked. He kicked the man who knelt in front of him away. Ignoring the man's life, the chief went back angrily. Chapter 197. The people of the Wuxia tribe, because of this test, temporarily gave up the idea of entering the forest. But at the same time, they also took precautions against the ferocious beasts' forest. Except for the Wuxia tribe, they would pay attention to the movements of other people who entered the forest. Before they were fully prepared, they wouldn't send anyone there for the time being. This was the result of the discussion between the Wuxia tribe's shaman and the chief. They didn't like to see other forces that were a threat to them in the ferocious beasts' forest, but at the same time, they had an escape mentality. They felt that as long as there was no greater threat to their tribe, they would put this matter aside for the time being. Perhaps, when everything was more stable, they would send people there again. While the people of the Wuxia tribe were talking about the ferocious beasts' forest, Xiaofan walked to the old haunt with injuries and walked towards the fire pit. However, after 2 steps, Xiaofan looked in another direction. Come out yourself, or should I drag you out? After Xiaofan's voice fell, a head popped out from behind a collapsed stone house full of moss and other plants. I can come out myself. It was a thin young man, who looked a little embarrassed. There were many scratches on his animal skin clothes, some caused by knives, some by branches in the forest. The man looked at the knife in Xiaofan's hand with fear and forced a smile. I mean no harm. I also helped you kill 8 people of the Wuxia tribe. I only saw 4. Xiaofan stared at the stranger who appeared. The other party didn't seem to mean any harm. When he killed the people of the Wuxia tribe, he also saw several people with different wounds. Although he exaggerated, the other party's words were not completely wrong. However, he still had to be vigilant. He was now in a state of exhaustion, and the other party was a stranger he didn't know, so he had to be careful. The man choked. He didn't expect that Xiaofan, who had been assassinating people of the Wuxia tribe, would notice how many people he killed. He wanted to say, there are some you didn't notice, but when he met Xiaofan's eyes, he trembled and laughed. Well, I only killed 4. I was forced here by the people of the Wuxia tribe. Xiaofan did not say anything. The other party thought for a moment and took 2 steps towards Xiaofan, but still maintained a distance of about 10 meters. As soon as he moved, Cha-Cha swooped down from the sky and stood on the ground, spreading its wings and staring at the enemy with its eagle eyes. Xiaofan comforted Cha-Cha. It's okay. Cha-Cha's appearance startled the man, and he quickly hid behind the collapsed stone house. When Cha-Cha flew up again, he looked at the sky and felt that the eagle in the sky would not come down for the time being. Then he stuck his head out and introduced himself, Rain Tribe, Yang Sui. Xiaofan stared at him for a long time, until the smile on his face almost froze. Then, he slowly said, Xiaofan of the Yinjiao tribe. Yinjiao tribe? Thinking of the words he saw on the stones in the woods, Yang Sui was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. The Yinjiao tribe should be the big tribe that used to live here, right? But didn't they say that this tribe died out 1,000 years ago? Xiaofan had been observing the other party's reaction. When he saw the totem patterns on Yang Sui's face, he narrowed his eyes and slightly raised the knife in his hand. Although he was seriously injured, it was not impossible for him to try his best. Besides, the other party's fighting ability was not very strong. No, wait. I'm just looking. Yang Sui hurriedly said. Some very short vertical stripes appeared on Yang Sui's face, which should be the totem patterns of the Rain tribe. On his forehead, there was a pattern that looked like a horizontal eye. The pupil, in the eye, slowly expanded from a short vertical line to a spindle shape. No, are you really from the Yanjiao tribe? Yang Sui was very confused. There is no fire seed here, and I haven't heard that the Yanjiao tribe still exists. There was no fire seed, and no one had ever heard of the existence of the Flaming Horns tribe. Even the descendants of the people who had been left behind should be wanderers, or they might have accepted the new totem and become members of another tribe. However, Xiaofan said that he was from the Yanjiao tribe. Xiaofan was a totem warrior, which Yang Sui was sure of. Because of this, he was confused. The day before yesterday, Yang Sui also felt the energy fluctuation that was very similar to the fire seed. He only felt a little bit that night, and when he came to check, he felt nothing. It was still a ruin. Was it because he was not strong enough? Yang Sui was puzzled. Xiaofan didn't answer directly, but kept silent for a while. His focus was on the no fire seed mentioned by Yang Sui. Obviously, Yang Sui didn't notice the fire veins under the fire pit. Perhaps this was the reason why the fire veins under the fire pit still existed after thousands of years. Because no one could notice it, they just thought that the fire seed of the Yanjiao tribe had been extinguished long ago. Are you a witch? Xiaofan noticed the power of inheritance in Yang Sui. Yes. How do you know? Are you a witch too? Yang Sui looked at Xiaofan in surprise. No, I'm not. Xiaofan didn't say more. He walked to the tall stone pillar, sat down with his back against it, and made a gesture to the sky. Cha-Cha in the sky responded and flew away. When he came back again, he threw something wrapped in leaves. Yang Sui caught the package, untied the straw rope, and removed the leaves, revealing the cold meat inside. It was the meat that had been roasted but not eaten. The meat was roasted by a ferocious beast caught by Cha-Cha. It wasn't a powerful ferocious beast, but it was better than a wild animal. After eating the meat and drinking some water, Xiaofan felt better. He could feel the energy brought by the ferocious beast meat. In fact, he could use the fire crystal, which could help him recover some of his strength quickly. But there was a stranger here, and he didn't know him well, so it was better not to take out the fire crystal. After what happened in the market of the Mang tribe and the Eight Limbs tribe, Xiaofan knew that many people could find the fire crystal in various ways. But at the same time, there were also ways to hide the fire crystal, such as the jade box. The fire crystal in Xiaofan's hand was now in a jade box. The jade box wasn't a good one, and he had exchanged it with many water moonstones. Fortunately, it had some effect, and that was enough. The jade box, the fire crystal, and some other things were all hidden by Xiaofan in order to deal with the people of the Wanshi tribe. Seeing Xiaofan resting with his eyes closed, Yang Sui looked at the darkening sky and moved a few steps towards Xiaofan. He wasn't too close, but he wasn't too far away either. He knew his own strength. Killing the 4 people of the Wanshi tribe was the best he could do, and it was the result of relying on Xiaofan's trap. He couldn't do more, not to mention the ferocious beasts in the forest. After seeing Xiaofan's strength, even though he was still afraid, it was better than encountering ferocious beasts. There were many dangerous ferocious beasts at night. Cha-Cha was resting on the stone pillar, staring at Yang Sui vigilantly. This was a real ferocious beast, which gave Yang Sui a lot of pressure. He thought it would be hard for him to fall asleep under such pressure, but he didn't expect that after resting for a while with his eyes closed, he would start snoring. In his dream, he saw a vague shadow, like a fire, and in the middle of the fire, there was something like a horn. He had never seen anything like this before. Xiaofan opened his eyes and looked at the person who was snoring. He was speechless for a while. He thought he was smart, but he didn't expect him to be a fool. Or a shaman. Carefully sensing the surroundings, Xiaofan didn't find any threat, so he closed his eyes again and rested. Here, although there was no fire seed, the power of the fire vein under the fire pit could still help Xiaofan a lot. He could feel the totem flame jumping in his mind. He was very energetic, and the totem power in his body was flowing more and more strongly. The next day, when Xiaofan woke up, his wounds had healed a lot, and the feeling of exhaustion had been greatly relieved. He also ran to the forest to hunt a small ferocious beast for breakfast. Yang Sui looked at Xiaofan, who was roasting meat over the fire, and wiped his saliva. He was very surprised. Although Xiaofan did not bleed much yesterday, Yang Sui knew that Xiaofan's injury was more serious than it looked. Yang Sui guessed that Xiaofan would need a few days to recover. Who would have thought that Xiaofan would wake up in such high spirits and could even go hunting? Was he still a human? Was he really a ferocious beast in human form? No, ferocious beasts didn't have such a strong recovery ability. Just when he was thinking about whether Xiaofan was a human or a ferocious beast, Yang Sui heard a shout. "Hey!" Xiaofan cut off a leg of a ferocious beast and threw it over. Yang Sui hadn't fully recovered yet, but his body was one step ahead of Xiaofan. He hurriedly caught the leg. He wasn't afraid of the heat, so he took a bite. As for whether Xiaofan was a human or a ferocious beast, he didn't have time to think about it. Xiaofan didn't give the fearsome beast leg out of sympathy. With the fearsome beast leg, the atmosphere was less tense. He asked Yang Sui some questions. Yang Sui didn't hide it. The shamans of the Rain tribe would travel around when they were young to broaden their horizons and learn how to become better shamans. Yang Sui was the same. The Rain tribe was not in the central region. It was a little far away. Yang Sui had left the tribe at the beginning of the year. 2 days ago, he arrived at the Wuxia tribe. Coincidentally, the Wuxia tribe's team was returning. He saw the women captured by the Wuxia tribe and planned to help them before they were all taken to the Wuxia tribe. Unexpectedly, the women he rescued called more people and he was almost killed by the people of the Wuxia tribe. Fortunately, he escaped quickly and hid in the ferocious beast mountain forest near the Wuxia tribe. Only then did the people chasing him return. Xiaofan understood. No wonder there was a commotion in the Wuxia tribe that day. It was because of this boy. The people of the Wuxia tribe were afraid of other people entering their tribe because of this. "Did you also steal the meat bird of the Lu tribe?" Xiaofan asked. "No. Absolutely not." Yang Sui retorted with a righteous face. After a pause, he said without confidence, "When I passed by there, I found a meat bird in the forest, so I took it away. That meat bird was so easy to trick. If you put a fruit in front of it with a branch, it would keep running." Yang Sui was tired at that time, so he used the meat bird as a tool to run errands. However, the route he took was different from the route of the Lu tribe's team, so Xiaofan didn't meet him. Until he passed by the Wuxia tribe, he saw the commotion caused by Yang Sui. Chapter 198. Since leaving the Rain tribe, Yang Sui had spent most of his time with some traveling teams. He had developed the habit of chatting with others when he was free. Just like now, when Xiaofan asked him, he couldn't stop talking. Yang Sui told Xiaofan about the places he had been to, the people he had met, and the tribes he had visited after leaving the tribe. These were not secrets, and he wanted to show off. In many tribes, most people wouldn't have the chance to walk around like this, nor would they have the courage to do so. However, Yang Sui had not only done it, but also lived until now. In fact, I'm not the real shaman of our tribe. When I go back this time, I'll be able to take over. Yang Sui said proudly. Isn't your tribe afraid that you'll have an accident? Xiaofan asked. There's nothing we can do about it. This is the rule set by our ancestors. If I die, there will be another person who will continue on this path until someone succeeds. Only then will he be qualified to take over the position of shaman, Yang Sui said. Thinking of something, Xiaofan asked, if the shaman leaves the tribe and has an accident, will there be a next shaman? Of course there will be. Yang Sui was surprised that Xiaofan didn't even know this. However, he glanced at the knife in Xiaofan's hand. For the sake of Xiaofan's animal leg, he said, as long as there's a fire seed, we can make another one. It's just a little troublesome to cultivate. Every tribe has a different way of selecting shamans. As for the chief, it's even simpler. Whoever is more capable will be the chief, according to the rules of the tribe. In other words, as long as there's a fire seed, everything will be fine. If there's no fire seed, everything will be gone. That's right. That's why I'm confused. Where's the fire seed in Yanjiao? It's not here. Oh. Seeing that Xiaofan didn't want to say more, Yang Sui didn't ask any more. When it came to the secrets of the tribe, no one would say more. After thinking about Yang Sui's words, Xiaofan thought of the way the Yanjiao tribe's shamans were passed down and sighed. TSK, the incomplete fire seed of the Yanjiao tribe was not fully functional. Instead of talking about the fire seed, Yang Sui talked about the Yanjiao tribe that had been annihilated nearly 1,000 years ago. The Lu tribe was also an old tribe with a long history in the central region. They were able to establish themselves in the central region not only because of their talent in breeding, but also because of the ancestors of the Lu tribe. The ancestors of the Lu tribe? Xiaofan didn't expect to be able to trace back to that time. I heard it from others. Yang Sui had been traveling around for a year, so he knew a lot of things. It is said that nearly 1,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Lu tribe helped several large tribes in the central region when the world changed. At that time, there was a shortage of food, so many people had their eyes on the Lu tribe. However, the ancestors of the Lu tribe were also very powerful. Not only did they provide food for the other large tribes, they also taught them some better breeding techniques. Although many people learned how to breed, they still couldn't breed as good as the people of the Lu tribe. However, at least the crisis was alleviated. At that time, the ancestors of the several tribes made a win-win agreement, so the Lu tribe was protected. Until now, the several tribes have been in close contact with each other. Just like what Yang Sui said, there were many simple techniques. Even if other people tried to do the same, the result would not be as good as the Lu tribes. In the areas where there were many human tribes, most of the food came from farming and breeding. Many tribes in the central region had large areas for farming and breeding, and the scale was even larger than what the ancestors of the Yanjiao tribe had recorded. There was no doubt that in the past 1,000 years, breeding and farming had developed greatly. It seemed that he would go to the Lu tribe to learn more if he had the chance. Xiaofan thought. After staying in the old haunt for 2 more days, Xiaofan decided to leave. Winter was coming, and the temperature had dropped significantly. He had to find someone. Where are you going? Yang Sui asked. The Longboat tribe. Ah, what a coincidence. Me too. I'm going back to the Rain tribe. It's not a long way to go. Yang Sui didn't know how long it would take to find a traveling team on the same route after leaving the ferocious Beast Mountain forest. Even if he found one, he wasn't sure whether that team was safe or not. In Yang Sui's opinion, Xiaofan was a strong man. Besides, he had a hawk with him. It would be safer than going alone. If he went alone, what if he met people of the Wanshi tribe? He would be killed. Xiaofan didn't refuse Yang Sui's offer. He didn't know much about this area, and he had been here longer than Yang Sui. But from what Yang Sui had said, he could see that Yang Sui knew the situation in the central region well. It was good to have him show the way. Xiaofan could also improve the map in his hand. After getting Xiaofan's permission, Yang Sui was very happy and excited. He looked at the cha-cha flying in the sky, and couldn't wait to jump up. He didn't know if it was comfortable on the hawk's back. When he went back, he could show off to others that he had sat on a hawk before. But Yang Sui looked at the sky. It's going to rain today until the evening. Let's wait for a while and find a place to hide. We can set off tomorrow. The next few days will be mostly sunny. Xiaofan looked at the sky. The clouds didn't change much, but he still nodded. Not far from the old fire pit, there was a concave place on the mountain. Although it was not as spacious as a cave, it was enough to shelter them from the rain. When they were sheltering from the rain, Xiaofan asked Yang Sui, "Can you observe the sky?" The weather changed very fast. The common sense of his previous life was only partly applicable, so Xiaofan couldn't see the weather accurately. Sometimes the clouds changed very fast, so it was hard to make a conclusion in advance. Observing the sky? Kind of. Yang Sui said, "The reason why I was chosen first and became the candidate of the first wizard was because I was the first one to pray for rain." Speaking of praying for rain, Yang Sui's tone was a little guilty. A long time ago, the shamans of the rain tribe could pray for rain at any time. Even in the dry season, they could make the sky rain. Later, this ability disappeared. It was said that the first shaman who couldn't pray for rain was burned to death in the tribe. It was said that he had angered the gods, so his totem couldn't appear and rain couldn't come. But later, the second, the third, and even several generations of shamans failed to pray for rain. People panicked at the beginning, then became numb. They tried all kinds of methods, but nothing worked. So there was a rule that the candidates for the position of shaman must travel outside, hoping to find a solution. However, many years had passed, and no shaman of the rain tribe could do it. This rule had been continued until now. So when Yang Sui prayed for rain, many people in the tribe were shocked. But in fact, Yang Sui could only see the sky and react according to the sky. But he was misunderstood by the tribesmen that he could pray for rain. Yang Sui wanted to explain, but after seeing the reaction of the tribesmen and the crazy eyes of the chief, he stopped. He felt that if he explained, he might be tied to the fire pit and burned to death by the chief. Alas! Yang Sui couldn't help but sigh. At the thought of praying for rain, Yang Sui felt as if his body was burned by fire. He hoped that the tribe could withstand it. Not in every tribe, shamans had an absolute status. If a shaman had the strength and could fool people, he would naturally have a high status. But if he didn't have the strength and didn't know how to fool people, he would be burned to death or something else in a tribe like the Rain tribe. Yang Sui didn't say much about the Rain tribe, so Xiaofan could only speculate based on a few words. But praying for rain? Could it really be done? It seemed so magical. As Yang Sui said, after it began to rain, it didn't stop until night. The next day, the weather was sunny again. Yangguang shone on the earth, dispelling some of the chill of late autumn. When we arrive at the Longboat tribe, it will probably snow, right? Yang Sui said. Because praying for rain brought too much pressure, Yang Sui paid attention to the climate and weather changes every time he arrived at a place. He inquired about the climate of the previous years and made inferences according to what he knew. He couldn't judge the specific situation until he arrived there. Now it was just speculation. After packing up, Xiaofan gestured to Cha-Cha to come down. Looking at Cha-Cha, Yang Sui was excited. After Xiaofan jumped up, he also climbed up. However, after Xiaofan jumped on the eagle's back, Cha-Cha took off. Yang Sui, who was about to climb up, was stunned. Cha-Cha flew in the air and flew down again, stretching out its claws to catch Yang Sui. When he saw the eagle's claws, Yang Sui's first thought was to turn around and run away. He also ran away, but the eagle's speed was still faster than him. Before he could run 2 steps, he was caught. When Yang Sui was hiding in the woods, he saw Cha-Cha kill people of the Wuxia tribe with its claws. At this time, he also thought of the bloody scene. He could only close his eyes, feeling that his life was in danger. But soon, he felt something was wrong. The eagle's claws were not as strong as he thought, and they didn't hurt him. When he opened his eyes, Yang Sui saw the ground flying away quickly. For the first time in his life, he was taken to such a high altitude. Early in the morning, a scream sounded over the forest, startling a group of birds that got up early to look for food. After screaming for a while, Yang Sui calmed down. He saw the Wuxia tribe below. Cha-Cha deliberately flew over the Wuxia tribe, shitting all the way, and then turned around, flying in the direction that Xiaofan pointed out. The Longboat tribe was also in the central region, but not very close to the central region. The tribe's habitat was next to a wide river. Of course, the widest river in the central region was far less than the one in front of the Yanjiao tribe's mountain, which was just like the sea. When he was traveling with the Pu tribe's traveling team, Xiaofan heard from the people in the team that the Pu tribe's traveling team had also passed by the Longboat tribe, but because of some reasons, they changed their route. Xiaofan's understanding of the Longboat tribe came from the travelers. The Longboat tribe was good at building ships. It was said that the Longboat tribe built the first ship in the central region, and later, it developed into a fleet, which was also the characteristic of the Longboat tribe. When there was no metal, how could the big ships mentioned by the travelers be made practical and sturdy? Xiaofan was very curious about this. Chapter 199. From the old haunt of the Yanjiao tribe to the Longboat tribe, the distance was a little far. It took more than 1 or 2 days to get there, and they had to rest several times on the way. Yang Sui was more familiar with this area. Although he couldn't tell them in detail, he could still tell them where there were tribes, markets, and so on. In the old haunt, Xiaofan was injured in order to deal with the people of the Wuxia tribe. His clothes and pants were stained with blood, and there were many scratches. He looked quite down and out. In the central region, many tribes were very particular, especially those big tribes. At first, they judged people by their clothes. Those who wore good clothes would be classified as big tribes, and those who looked sloppy would be classified as small tribes that they didn't want to pay attention to. After arriving at the market, Xiaofan went to exchange for an animal skin coat. Animal skin was not as comfortable as ferocious beast skin, but at this time, he couldn't ask for too much. He just wanted to look a little decent. After all, he didn't want to lose face in the central region, right? If the shaman knew about this, he would have to lecture him again. In addition to some winter clothes, Xiaofan also prepared some food for the journey. He also inquired about the layout of the surrounding area, and improved the map in his hand. Yang Sui also went to change into a few winter thick fur clothes. He didn't use water moon stones, nor did he use jade. Instead, he used a kind of shell. Those shells were polished, chiseled, and strung together with ropes. This was the currency that many people used to exchange things. When Xiaofan was with the Pu tribe, he had heard people talk about this kind of currency. He had also seen some in some markets, but at that time, many questions couldn't be answered. Yang Sui, who often used shells to trade, gave Xiaofan a not very detailed explanation. This kind of shell is very useful. Many people in the central region like to use this kind of beautiful shell to make ornaments. In addition, this kind of shell powder can be used to make medicine and paint. It's said that the people of the Lu tribe like to mix some shell powder into their food when they feed their animals. Later on, many tribes followed suit. Oh, people who make pottery also like to use some shell powder. Anyway, many people like it, so this kind of shell can be traded in the central region. Yang Sui handed a seashell to Xiaofan. In our tribe, it is said that people from the distant seaside often bring a lot of these shells. We only need to exchange a few things for a large number of shells. I brought a lot with me when I left the tribe. Speaking of this, Yang Sui was proud. Although the tribe often suffered from drought and the harvest was not good, the shells from other tribes helped the tribe survive. Some people who often went out could exchange the shells for a lot of things. To some extent, the Rain tribe could be considered a local tyrant tribe. If the harvest was not good, they could still use the shells to make up for the losses. Not every kind of shell was popular. Xiaofan asked more about this kind of shell coin, which was recorded in the Animal Skin volume 1 by 1. Thousands of years ago, this kind of payment was not popular. It was necessary to let the people in the tribe know about it, or they would know nothing about it when they came. Since it was a kind of coin, Xiaofan naturally could not take the shells from Yang Sui for free. He exchanged a bunch of water moonstones with Yang Sui and put them in the animal skin bag. He would take them back with him when he returned to the tribe. Xiaofan pinched the shells. They were quite solid. In this bunch of shells, the colors were not exactly the same. The white shells had a white luster, like shining pearls. The other colors also looked good. No wonder the people in the central region who had begun to pursue beauty liked to use this kind of shell to make ornaments. It's getting colder and colder. Yang Sui gathered the animal skin coat that he had just exchanged from the market. He was shivering in the wind. He looked at the sky and said, "Xiaofan, I think it will probably snow here in 3 days. It will be the same in the Longboat tribe. Then we have to hurry up." Xiaofan said. Once it snowed, it would be much more difficult to travel. However, the good thing was that the winter here was not as cold as the winter in the Yanjiao tribe. According to Xiaofan's knowledge, it would not snow all the time in the winter here. Even the rivers in some places would not freeze. He was used to the winter where the world was full of white snow and cold wind, so it was not a big deal here. "Xiaofan, aren't you cold?" Yang Sui looked at Xiaofan, who was wearing a thin animal skin coat, and asked. "I'm fine." Yang Sui shook his head and looked at Cha-Cha, who was descending from the sky. He put on the animal skin coat and a fur cloak, wrapping himself like a cocoon. He also wrapped his head, leaving only his nostrils and eyes exposed. It would be colder when flying in the air. As the weather began to drop significantly, Yang Sui felt uncomfortable, so he had to do this. Cha-Cha looked at the man who was wrapped in layers of animal skin with contempt. He stretched out his claws and flapped his wings, flying up again. According to the direction that Yang Sui pointed out, 2 people and an eagle hurried on their way again. Fortunately, it was much more convenient to fly in the air and avoid many detours. According to Yang Sui's words, the Longboat tribe was not far away. They would definitely arrive in 3 days, maybe 2. However, Xiaofan was happy too early. One day later, Xiaofan looked at the Y-shaped river in front of him and asked Yang Sui, "Which way should we go?" Yang Sui's expression was constipated. After a moment of silence, he replied, "I don't know." Even if there was a map, Xiaofan only drew a rough map according to other people's descriptions. In this era, the map of this place could not be very accurate. Even if other people showed the map to Xiaofan, there were many places that were not accurate. It was really because the current map was too rough. With a few simple lines, it was impossible to find the exact location. Xiaofan believed too much in Yang Sui's experience and sense of direction. I remember that we can go there by following the river. Yang Sui was also helpless. He had followed the traveling team from the other side of the longboat tribe to the central region, which was not far from this river. He remembered that he had been walking near the river. He really didn't know that there was such a fork here, so he couldn't remember the way back from the central region to the edge. To the left or to the right? Generally speaking, if there was a wide branch and a narrow branch, it would be fine. The longboat tribe would naturally go to the wide branch. But now, looking at the two branches of the same width in front of him, even Xiaofan couldn't tell which one was the right one to choose. There was not a single person in sight, nor were there any traces of human activity nearby. In this small area, there was no other tribe. This was a place where no one went. They could either wait here to see if other people passed by and then ask them, or let Cha-Cha fly forward to explore the way first, or turn back to ask others for directions. The former was too uncertain. As Yang Sui said, now that it was almost winter, there were fewer people coming out. Who knew when they would see the third person? And the latter also needed time. Then, what should we do? Yang Sui covered his hungry stomach and asked. Xiaofan thought for a while and made a decision. It's late now. Let's take a rest nearby and wait for tomorrow. I think so too. There should be several fleets of the longboat tribe that haven't returned this year. They will definitely pass by here on their way back. We should be able to see the fleet of the longboat tribe after waiting for a while. It's said that they will return to the tribe before and after the snow. Well, let's wait nearby. Xiaofan glanced around and pointed to a mountain nearby. Let's go there. Xiaofan hunted a beast, roasted it, and ate it. Then he went to a place on the mountain where he could clearly see the situation on the other side of the river. If the fleet of the longboat tribe passes by at night, you can see it from far away. The boat river fire is not a lie. Yang Sui said. The boat river fire? You'll know when you see it. Yang Sui yawned and went to find a leeward place to take a nap. In the middle of the night, Xiaofan opened his eyes and looked at the fork of the river. He didn't find anything. But when he looked upstream, he found a little spark moving. No, it was not a spark. It was a ship with burning torches. When the ships on the other side were getting closer, the spark became a line of fire. It was the fleet of the longboat tribe. Every ship was burning with torches. There were so many ships that it looked like a moving line of fire. Was this the boat river fire? Because the fleet of the longboat tribe often sailed on this river, it was called the boat river. And the boat river fire was probably like this. Cha-Cha saw the boat river fire and flapped its wings to wake Yang Sui up. Yang Sui yawned and looked down. He was delighted. It's really here. This is the boat river fire. Xiaofan had seen too many things in his previous life, so this scene was nothing to him. But in today's environment, it was undoubtedly shocking. The ships of the longboat tribe were really big, bigger than Xiaofan expected. They were also stable. There were masts and sails on the ships. But now, most of the ships were still driven by manpower. Xiaofan could clearly hear the sound of paddling. Do they travel at night? Xiaofan asked. There was no radar, navigator, or other auxiliary tools, but the ships of the longboat tribe could still travel at night. The fleet of the longboat tribe often goes this way, so they are very familiar with it. Many people used to travel at night, but many accidents happened. They either hit the shore or had other accidents. But it is rare to hear of an accident in the longboat tribe. The boat river fire is one of the most unique sights of the longboat tribe. Yang Sui looked at the long stream of fire below and said with admiration. On the boat river, Xiaofan watched the boat river fire gradually come to a fork and pass through the branch on the right. It's over there. Chapter 200. When the winter came, the Yanjiao tribe had already prepared for the winter under the shaman's notice. This winter, the Flaming Horns tribe was full of vitality. It was not as quiet as the winter of the previous years. Even in the Mountain Foot district, people could often be seen coming out to play. This was extremely rare. The warriors were training, and they even tried to go to the edge of the tribe to hunt. In the past, such behavior would undoubtedly be regarded as lunatics by others. The hunting song said that it was very dangerous to go hunting in winter, so everyone formed a tacit agreement that they would not go out in winter. But now it was different. Everyone seemed to be full of energy, and they would feel uncomfortable if they could not vent it out. Some people went to the training ground in the snow, or found someone to practice with. And for those who felt that training was boring, for the first time, they had the idea of going to the edge of the tribe to hunt. As long as they did not go deep into the forest, they should be able to walk around the edge. In the beginning, some people were worried that they would be scolded, but when they found that many people on the mountain were wandering outside, they were relieved. Can we really cross the river and go back to the old land? A warrior asked his companion beside him. Absolutely. Do you doubt the shaman? No. Absolutely no doubt. Did the shaman say that? Hey, what do you think the people from other tribes look like? Do they have an extra pair of hands? Or do they lack an eye? A warrior came over and interrupted. I heard that there are 8 hands on the totem of the 8 limbs tribe. They must have 8 hands too. I'm sure. Is there really that much? It sounds interesting. Let's catch one and have a look. As for the people from other tribes, those barbarians, who were born and raised in the Yanjiao tribe, many of them were not completely used to the new way of thinking. In their current thoughts, they subconsciously classified the people from other tribes as ferocious beasts. Even when they gathered together to discuss, they talked about ferocious beasts in a tone. Since the fire pit incident, the shaman decided to disclose more information. He also drew some totems of other tribes and a very brief description. Well, the shaman himself did not know the detailed information. That information was copied from the animal skin roll left by the ancestors. As for whether the people from the other tribes really had 8 hands, the shaman was still doubtful. There were too few things left by the ancestors. Not only the warriors in the tribe, but also the other people in the tribe, including the elderly, the children, and the women, had different activities in winter. Even the children living in the cave had more classes in winter. However, no matter where it was, everyone's discussion about outsiders was always a little strange. The shamaness once went down the mountain to investigate secretly. After hearing everyone's discussion, the shamaness felt very tired. When she went up the mountain, she sighed and her back was hunched. However, there was no other way. They had to wait for Xiaofan to return before making any concrete plans. Xiaofan, who was remembered by the tribesmen, went with Cha-Cha and Yang Sui in the direction of the Longboat tribe's fleet and arrived at the Longboat tribe successfully. When Xiaofan arrived at the Longboat tribe, it had been snowing for half a day. The snow was not too heavy. After half a day, some places were not covered by snow. This situation was not seen in the Yanjiao tribe. If they were in the Yanjiao tribe, there would be a layer of snow on the ground in less than half an hour. The Longboat tribe was divided into land and water territories. Usually, they would leave a path not far from the river bank for passers-by to pass by. However, when they unloaded goods or during special periods, they would completely seal off the area. Travelers had to take a long detour. Fortunately, it was not the time for the river bank to be blocked. In front of them, there was a small group of travelers passing by. Xiaofan, do you come to the Longboat tribe for a boat? Yang Sui asked. No, I'm looking for someone. Looking for someone? Do you know anyone in the Longboat tribe? No. Then who are you looking for? Yang Sui was confused. people in our tribe?" Xiaofan paused and said, "If there are any, they should be regarded as wanderers." "Wanderers? Are you looking for wanderers here?" Yang Sui was surprised. Weren't the so-called wanderers the people whose tribes had been destroyed but had not been captured, had not been taken as captives, and were not willing to be slaves? Xiaofan was a totem warrior. It meant that the fire of the Yanjiao tribe was still there. How could those people become wanderers? Were they expelled? Xiaofan didn't say much. Yang Sui didn't understand, but he didn't intend to ask. What he wanted to do most now was to find a boat that was specially rented for travelers. He wanted to get a room, have a good sleep and eat some hot food, preferably some hot soup. Like some big tribes, the Longboat tribe also provided accommodation for travelers or passers-by. However, they had to exchange things for accommodation. It was very expensive. Yang Sui chose a boat, which was the same one that the travelers had stayed on. He gave some shellfish to the Longboat tribe. Then he went into his room and did not want to go out. After drinking some hot water, Xiaofan decided to go out and look for someone. "Hey, Xiaofan, don't go out for too long. If you leave the Longboat tribe, don't go without saying a word. Call me. Otherwise, I will be killed if I stay here alone. I can show you the way," Yang Sui said. Xiaofan said yes and went out. He did not believe that a person who dared to run around alone would be killed so easily. Xiaofan was not worried about Cha-Cha. It was not used to staying in the Longboat tribe. So he just let it go outside and harm the beasts. After Xiaofan got off the boat, he looked back at the big boat docked on the river bank. He carefully observed it just now. Although the boat was not very exquisite, it was strong enough to carry many people. Xiaofan looked back and continued to walk in one direction. He had asked before. The place where the wanderers lived was over there. There were patrols of the Longboat tribe around. They stared at every stranger who passed by. As long as these people crossed the border, they would be merciless. The so-called crossing the border meant that one could not enter the habitat of the Longboat tribe. 2. One could not get on the boat at will. When Xiaofan walked over, he was also stared at. However, they probably felt that Xiaofan wasn't a threat and he wasn't dressed extravagantly, so they didn't pay much attention to him. As long as Xiaofan didn't cross the line they drew, they wouldn't give him another look. Snow was falling. It was not big, but it was very dense. It was falling more quickly than before. Xiaofan walked on the land and did not take any shelter. He let the snow fall on his body. Many people of the Longboat tribe spent most of their time on the boat. Even if they returned to the tribe, they would stay on the boat. They ate and lived on the boat. They were used to the life on the boat. They felt uncomfortable on the land. Therefore, Xiaofan walked all the way. There were not many people in the direction of the forest. However, there were many people on the boats docked on the shore. Eating, drinking, talking and laughing were endless. The shore was almost full of big boats. Most of the fleet that went out had returned. The wide river was full. Xiaofan walked for more than 10 minutes and still could not see the end. It was really a river of boats. When the big boats on the shore gradually became sparse, Xiaofan also came to an empty area. This was the dividing area between the Longboat tribe and the wanderers. Xiaofan walked over. Compared with the warm atmosphere on the Longboat tribe's fleet, the wanderers' area was much quieter. Although there were people talking and laughing loudly, the atmosphere was different. It was like the slums in the dark corners of the bustling city. There were also houses on the land here. Because they could not enter the territory of the Longboat tribe, the space was limited and they could not go deep into the forest. However, there were many wanderers. Since they could not go deep horizontally, they could only expand vertically. Therefore, a long and narrow wanderers' living area was formed. Near the river, there were many boats docked. However, compared with the big boats of the longboat tribe, the boats here were very small and simple. In some small boats of 4 to 5 meters long, there was a simple shed. People lived in it. They also spent the winter in the boat. Sometimes, when the wind was strong, the boats would shake violently. If they were not tied to the wooden stakes on the shore, they would probably be blown away. The people here worked for the longboat tribe. They carried wood, chopped wood, transported things, and did all the dirty and tiring work. They also used this labor in exchange for the permission to live here. At the same time, they could also get some meager remuneration. This was when the employer was in a good mood. When the employer was in a bad mood, sometimes they could not get anything. This was what Yang Sui had told him. Perhaps the real situation was much worse than what Yang Sui had described, much more sinister. As for the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe, Xiao Xian just came here to look for them. He was not sure whether he could find them. How to find them? Should he write a sign here and hang it? Or should he shout along the way? Thinking about how to find those people, Xiao Xian walked while paying attention to the movements on both sides. When he walked to a place, Xiao Xian heard a quarrel in front of a wooden house and the sound of wood breaking. "Jiao Wu, stop!" Someone shouted. "Jiao?" Xiao Xian once heard from Yan Shua that some wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe would add Yan or Jiao in front of their names or their descendants' names. Many of the names with Yan or Jiao were not necessarily Yanjiao tribesmen, but Xiao Xian would ask them when he met them. Most of the time, he would return with disappointment. Now he was going to ask them. Just as he took a step in that direction, Xiao Xian saw a man who was taller and stronger than the others striding out of the wooden house. The fur on his animal skin coat was not thick. In many places, the fur was falling off and there were many holes. It seemed that he had been wearing it for a long time. His beard was unshaven. But looking carefully, this man was actually very young. He was not much older than Xiao Xian. That person was furious, and it was unknown whether his face was red from anger or from being blown red by the wind. Behind him, someone chased after him, shouting the name Jiao Wu. But the person who came out in front did not look back. He sped up and left. "Hey, why are you angry?" The man whispered. "That's right. I just asked casually." Hiss, that guy's strength increased again. Someone in the house said. Hearing their conversation, Xiao Xian looked at the man who had already walked far away and quickly chased after him. "Hey, the one in front!" Xiao Xian called. The person in front did not stop. Instead, he walked faster. "Jiao Wu!" The people in front of him ran away. Chapter 201. "Hey, why are you running away?" Xiao Xian chased after him. With Xiao Xian's ability, it was not difficult to catch up with Jiao Wu. After all, totem warriors had an advantage over those who had not awakened their totem power. But he wondered why Jiao Wu had such a reaction. After running a few steps, he slowed down and stayed 10 meters behind Jiao Wu. He kept this distance and followed him. Therefore, in the wanderer area of the longboat tribe, many people who were walking outside saw Jiao Wu running quickly. There was a man behind him, as if he was a debt collector. What did Jiao Wu do this time? Someone asked the person next to him. "I don't know." Did someone ask him about his totem again? It's possible. After all, many people saw the totem patterns on their bodies that day. It's hard to believe. I've watched them grow up here, but I've never seen any totem patterns on their bodies. Aren't they wanderers? Ever since the totem patterns appeared on Jiao Wu and his brothers' bodies, people often went to look for them in the following days. Some wanderers were curious and wanted to know more, while others wanted to rope them in. There were also gangs in the Wanderer area, because after that, Jiao Wu and his brother's strength had obviously increased. Moreover, some women in the Wanderer area looked at them with shining eyes. Xiaoxian chased after Jiao Wu for a while. When he saw that Jiao Wu was almost out of the Wanderer area, he stopped and did not continue to chase. After a while, he saw that Jiao Wu's shadow was not in front of him, so he went back. He knew that Jiao Wu was hiding in a place not far away. Just now when he passed by a place, Jiao Wu's eyes glanced at that place several times. That wooden house should be where Jiao Wu lived. Xiaoxian also heard the discussions of the people around him. He was now very sure that Jiao Wu was from the Yanjiao tribe. When he was running, Xiaoxian felt a trace of the totem power of the Yanjiao tribe from him. He did not notice it before. It should be the result of Jiao Wu deliberately hiding it. What made Xiaoxian happy was that according to the wanderers around, Jiao Wu had brothers. That would be even better. Xiaoxian walked towards the wooden house. Not far from Xiaoxian, Jiao Wu was hiding behind someone else's wooden house. He thought that he was secretly following Xiaoxian. Seeing that Xiaoxian was getting closer and closer to the wooden house, he became anxious. He knew that he had attracted a lot of attention because of the totem tattoos, and there were many people who were jealous and even hated him. He was afraid that someone would come knocking on his door. Those questions about the totem tattoos were already annoying enough, so when he heard someone call his name, and it was an unfamiliar voice, he subconsciously categorized the other party as someone who was looking for trouble. His brother didn't allow him to fight, so he could only avoid it. The snow became heavier. The tourists around saw that there was nothing to see, so they all went back to their houses. No one talked to Xiaoxian. If it was in the past, they would be happy to ask around and have some fun in their free time. But now, it was better to go back to their houses and light a fire. To prevent the cold wind from blowing into the house, they even closed all the windows. This long and narrow walkway became deserted again. Xiaoxian looked at the wooden house. It was built better than Yan Shuo's house. The wooden boards were neatly pieced together, and it looked sturdy. Approaching the house, Xiaoxian knocked on the door. No one opened the door, and he didn't hear any sounds of activity inside. Did they all go out? Xiaoxian was thinking about whether to directly drag Jiao Wu out, when he heard footsteps approaching from behind. "Who are you?" Xiaoxian turned around and looked. It was a young woman. The animal skin clothes she was wearing looked good. Not only were there no holes, there were no bald spots, and the fur on the clothes was quite thick. Her hair was also neatly combed. Her skin was slightly dark, probably because she often went out. Similar to the people of the Longboat tribe, she was tanned by the sun. She was not a wanderer, but more like a person of the Longboat tribe. This was Xiaoxian's first impression. "I am a friend of Jiao Wu's brother," Xiaoxian said. After hearing Xiaoxian's answer, the other party still looked at Xiaoxian with vigilance. "I have never seen you here. I just came to the Longboat tribe today." Xiaoxian glanced at the old animal skin clothes in the other party's hand. The fur on the animal skin was longer, but it was a little sparse. There was also a drawing on the bald spots. It looked like a drawing of a Yanjiao totem. "Is this drawing our tribe's totem?" Xiaoxian asked. "Your tribe?" She was surprised. "Yes, I am from the Yanjiao tribe," Xiaoxian said. "Oh, so you are from there too?" Hearing Xiaoxian's words, the vigilance in her eyes lessened a lot. "It's snowing heavily. Go hide in the side." Xiaoxian asked the other party to stand under the eaves of the wooden house. Maybe it was because it rained a lot here, the slope of the roof of the wooden house was very steep, and the eaves extended outwards. It was convenient to shelter from the rain and snow. Moreover, Xiaofan wanted to know more about Jiao Wu and his brother from her. Therefore, Jiao Wu, who was hiding not far away and looking at the door of his house, clenched his fists. He felt that the boy in front of the house must be up to no good. He was anxious for his brother. His wife was almost taken away. "Brother, when will you come back?" If it wasn't for his brother's warning not to hit people casually, Jiao Wu would have run over and beat him up. Should he go out? If he went out, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself. But if he didn't go out, he was worried about the situation over there. Because Xiaofan's voice was not loud, and Jiao Wu was not too close, he couldn't hear the conversation over there. But the two people under the eaves seemed to be chatting happily. Xiaofan learned that this woman was called Wuxia, and she was from the Longboat tribe. Jiao Wu and his brother were coolies in her family. However, Xiaofan could tell from her tone that Wuxia had a good impression of Jiao Wu's brother, Yanji, because Yanji had saved her once. If it weren't for Yanji, she would have been bitten to death by the fish in the river. The animal skin coat she was holding was for Yanji, but Yanji hadn't come back yet. From her attitude, it could be seen that she was quite protective of Jiao Wu and his brother. Gee, this was the kind of thing between a rich lady and a poor boy. It should be a very rare thing in this place. He didn't expect the two brothers to be so capable. Xiaofan thought. The animal skin coat brought by Wuxia was worn by her brother. Generally speaking, the people of the Longboat tribe would throw their old clothes to the wanderers who worked for them as a reward. However, most of those animal skin coats were broken or bald. The one in Wuxia's hand was good among those old clothes, and she specially picked it out. In order to eliminate Wuxia's remaining suspicion, Xiaofan drew the totem she had drawn on the animal skin coat on the ground again. Wuxia's drawing was not standard, or in other words, Jiao Wu and his brother may not be able to draw the totem of the Yanjiao tribe clearly. Wuxia was influenced by the brothers. The totem of our tribe looks like this. Xiaofan pointed to the drawing on the ground and said. So it is. Seeing that Xiaofan could draw the totem of the Yanjiao tribe accurately and more clearly than what she had seen from Yanji, Wuxia's suspicion in her heart completely disappeared. Thinking of what Xiaofan had said, she thought that Xiaofan was a wanderer like Jiao Wu and his brother. Since Xiaofan and Yanji were descendants of the Yanjiao tribe, Wuxia's attitude towards Xiaofan became warmer. However, in Jiao Wu's eyes, this directly sounded the alarm bell. In the wanderer area, except for his brother, when did Wuxia treat others with such an attitude? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He couldn't bear it anymore. If he continued to bear it, maybe his brother's woman would be taken away. Get out of my way! Jiao Wu roared and ran towards Xiaofan. He punched Xiaofan. Xiaofan had been paying attention to Jiao Wu's movements since a moment ago. He could also guess Jiao Wu's thoughts. He avoided Jiao Wu's fist and avoided Jiao Wu's kick. Jiao Wu, stop! Wuxia shouted. Jiao Wu didn't listen and continued to punch at Xiaofan. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he punched, even if he ignored his brother's advice and used all his strength, he still couldn't hit Xiaofan. He couldn't even touch Xiaofan's animal skin coat. Every time, he missed by a little bit. The more Jiao Wu hit, the angrier he became. He was angry and sullen. At first, he could hit the vital parts, but because of his emotions, he couldn't move his hands properly. Stop! A shout came from the side. It wasn't Wuxia's voice this time. Hearing this voice, Jiao Wu stopped. Xiaofan looked over. The man was wearing an animal skin coat with holes. He didn't have a beard as long as Jiao Wu's. He was thinner than Jiao Wu, but his eyes were sharp and he looked more stable. This man should be Jiao Wu's brother, the one Wuxia was looking for, Yanji. This kind of weather was bearable for totem warriors, but for those who hadn't awakened their totem power and were in poor conditions, it was very bad. But Yan Ji didn't seem to feel the cold around him. He didn't even shiver. Yan Ji had just finished his work. There were some scratches on his hands. The wounds were not deep and the blood had already coagulated. "Brother, this guy, he..." Jiao Wu didn't know what to say. Mu Qian came up and said, Xiao Xian said that he was also a Yanjiao tribesman. Xiao Xian found that after hearing Mu Qian's words, Jiao Wu and Jiao Wu's eyes didn't change much. Their eyes flashed slightly, but they were still vigilant. "Let's talk inside." Yan Ji walked to the door. Intentionally or unintentionally, he stood between Xiao Xian and Mu Qian. Xiao Xian slightly twitched his mouth. The two of them were quite guarded. After Yan Ji walked to the door, he took out a thin bamboo knife, inserted it into the gap between the wooden door and the wooden wall, and then raised it. The door opened. When the door was not locked and there was no one in the house, they opened the door in this way. Behind the door was a structure similar to a wooden bolt. After entering the house, Xiao Xian roughly looked at the furnishings in the house. Although it was not good, it was much better than Yan Shua's house. "Don't worry about me. You can talk first." Xiao Xian found a wooden stool and sat down. Mu Qian didn't stay for long. After giving the animal skin coat to Yan Ji, she went out. As soon as Mu Qian went out, Jiao Wu closed the door. He stretched his fists and looked at Xiao Xian. It seemed that he was going to fight. Chapter 202. Xiao Xian sat on the stool and didn't care about Jiao Wu's threat. "You are no match for me," Xiao Xian said. Jiao Wu snorted and said, "Two of us will fight you together. Two of us can't beat you. You." Jiao Wu was about to attack again, but was stopped by Yan Ji. Sitting on the stool next to him, Yan Ji looked at Xiao Xian and said, "Tell me your intention." Xiao Xian didn't rush to tell them his intention, but asked, "I want to know why you are so wary of me. Are you doubting my identity?" Speaking of this, Jiao Wu didn't say anything, but there was obvious hatred in his eyes. This hatred was not directed at Xiao Xian, but at something he thought of. After a moment of silence, Yan Ji said, "When we see people of the same tribe, the first feeling we have is that they are kind. I have to admit that you give me a very kind feeling, and we don't doubt your identity. But even if you are a descendant of the Yanjiao tribe like us, so what?" Xiao Xian thought for a moment and said, "Have you been betrayed?" Jiao Wu wanted to say something, but after glancing at Yan Ji, he swallowed his words back. He was so angry that he was not angry at Xiao Xian. Sure enough. For this, Xiao Xian was helpless. He thought that the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe would be like Yan Shua. Later, when he met old He also felt that the people of the tribe were not easy. They had always insisted on their beliefs and were all determined people. But, Xiao Xian also heard from old He that not every descendant of the Yanjiao tribe was easy to get along with. Not everyone was loyal, and it was inevitable that there would be traitors. These kinds of people were rare, but they definitely existed. People who could betray their beliefs must be guarded against. When Xiao Xian left the Feng tribe, old He had reminded Xiao Xian that if he found any wanderers of the tribe, he should observe them first. If they were crooked, he should not recognize them. In the future, those with bad natures would be abandoned by the shamans even if they returned to the Yanjiao tribe. According to the standards of the shamans, there were strict rules for the totem warriors in the tribe, not to mention traitors. Therefore, even though Xiao Xian wanted to find some tribal wanderers who could build ships, he had to observe them first. Different people would naturally treat each other differently. As for the Jiao Wu brothers, Xiao Xian had only known them for a short time, but he had a good impression of them. One of them was calm, while the other was slightly impatient, but they didn't seem to have bad temperaments. With a sigh, Xiaofan didn't want to delay any longer. He took out a stone card and placed it on the table. The moment Yan Ji saw the pattern on the stone card, he stopped breathing and stared at the stone card without blinking. Jiao Wu wanted to pick it up, but he was afraid of being scolded by Yan Ji. He anxiously scratched his ears and cheeks, not knowing what to do. After a while, Yan Ji said, "Is this the totem of our Yanjiao tribe? It's the first time I've seen such a clear totem." Yan Ji took out a palm-sized stone knife and carved the totem on the stone card bit by bit on the small wooden table. His carving was slow, but he was very serious. Jiao Wu, who was next to him, also stared at it carefully, for fear of disturbing Yan Ji's movements. Xiaofan affirmed the two brothers again in his heart. Fortunately, they were two good seedlings. After carving, Yan Ji carefully touched the pattern, as if he wanted to imprint it in his mind. When he raised his head, Yan Ji looked at Xiaofan with a gentle and grateful look. "I'm sorry." Yan Ji smiled bitterly. "I was betrayed." Yan Ji briefly told Xiaofan what had happened that year. At that time, Jiao Wu was only a little over 10 years old, and Yan Ji, who was already working in the fleet, was responsible for all the labor in the family. At that time, there were several people in the longboat tribe. Including Jiao Wu, there were 8 people in total. They got along well with each other and always thought that all the people in the tribe were like this. Until one day, a man who was also a descendant of the Yanjiao tribe appeared. At that time, he seemed to have been chased and was injured. Yan Ji and others rescued him. Later, he lied to everyone that there was a very good place, where the people were much better than the people in the longboat tribe. He also persuaded everyone to go there together. Because what he said was so beautiful and attractive, for the people who worked hard in the longboat tribe and were bullied, everyone was looking forward to it. Later, everyone worked together to build a boat. Although it was not as big as the boat in the longboat tribe, it was much better than the boats in the wanderer area. Everyone gathered together and planned to leave together. However, when the boat sailed to a place, he plotted to push everyone off the boat. There, 2 tributaries converge into one. Because one tributary is black and the other is muddy yellow, the converged river has 2 colors at the fork. And in that place, there are many fishes with sharp teeth. Of the 8 people who fell into the river, only 3 survived. The trader took the boat and went downstream. I still remember that he used a wooden paddle to hit the people who fell into the water. Later, the 3 of us went upstream and returned to the longboat tribe. In order to build the boat, we used up all the things left by our ancestors. That trader, with the rest of our savings, left and never appeared again. When he was talking, Yan Ji's voice was very calm, but the hatred in his eyes was very deep. This was the main reason why they were on guard against Xiaofan. The blow of that year was too big, and they still hadn't recovered. Because they had been betrayed and had experienced a bloody lesson, they were vigilant when facing the descendants of the tribe. My brother was bitten by those fishes for me and almost died. Even if he survived, his health was much worse. Yan Zhua's brother pushed him ashore, but he didn't survive. Jiao Wu said with red eyes. Yan Zhua, who was mentioned by Jiao Wu, was now the 3rd wanderer of the Yanjiao tribe in the tribe besides Jiao Wu and his brother. He lived in the wooden house next door and should still be working outside. That's all in the past. Some time ago, the totem patterns appeared on our bodies, and our strength increased. My body also became better. Yan Ji looked at Xiaofan. Did you also have a totem pattern? Totem pattern? Xiaofan was puzzled. At that time, Yan Shua had a faint totem pattern because he himself had a little totem pattern. But according to Yan Ji's words, they, like old he, had never shown their totem patterns before. Why did they suddenly appear? After asking about the specific time, Xiaofan found that the day they showed their totem patterns was when he was in the old fire pit. It seemed that the fire pit in the old fire pit was still effective. Seeing that Xiaoxian did not answer, Yan Ji thought that he had not shown his totem patterns and was about to comfort him. But just as he was about to say something, he saw a very clear pattern on Xiaoxian's face. It was much clearer than the pattern on their totem patterns that day. Generally speaking, only totem warriors could have such a level of totem patterns. You. Jiao Wu pointed at Xiaoxian and said, "You," several times, but no other words came out. Xiaoxian did not care about the two brothers' excitement. He took out an animal skin roll and a pen and asked Yan Ji, "What's that man's name?" "Who?" Yan Ji did not respond for a moment. "That traitor. Dao Yu, his name is Dao Yu." Yan Ji used a stone knife to carve the name in a corner of the table. In addition to his parents' teaching in his early years, after his parents died, he often worked in the Longboat tribe's fleet, so he also knew some words. He had never forgotten this name. Looking at the two words, Xiaoxian wrote it down on the animal skin roll. Traitors will never be forgiven. Even if he escapes to the ends of the earth, even if he seeks refuge with other big tribes, as long as there is a chance, he will pay the price. Xiaoxian said. Xiaoxian did not need to tell the shaman. He could guess the shaman's choice after knowing this. If he sought refuge with other tribes for his livelihood, the people of the Yanjiao tribe would inevitably be disappointed, but they would not blame him. After all, it was too difficult for wanderers. But if he was a traitor who persecuted his own tribe, he would never be forgiven. In the Yanjiao tribe, he would be put to death. As far as Xiaoxian knew, in the Yanjiao tribe on the other side of the river, no matter what kind of character the shaman had, for those who violated the rules, they would absolutely use iron-blooded means, no matter on the mountain or at the foot of the mountain. "What is this in your hand?" Yan Ji saw a corner of the animal skin roll. There were many words on it, but he did not understand many of them. "These are to be taken back to show to the shaman," Xiaoxian said. "The shaman? We have a shaman?" The two brothers exclaimed at the same time. "Of course. The tribe is still there, and the fire seed is still there, but it is far away. Otherwise, how do you think I became a totem warrior?" The totem warrior's totem pattern was beyond doubt. Different from the traitor, the totem pattern was the most direct and powerful proof, more effective than 10,000 words. Yan Ji and Yan Ji had no doubt. Then, can we go back?" Yan Ji, who was usually calm, stuttered at this time. "Of course, but it is a little far and dangerous." "We are not afraid," the two said at the same time. "Wait, I will go to find Yan Zhua." Xiaoxian, right? Can you wait here for a while?" Yan Ji's words were even imploring. "Don't worry, I will be here," Xiaoxian said seriously. Thank you. Yan Ji wiped the corners of his eyes, took a deep breath, opened the door and went out. After Yan Ji left, Jiao Wu, who had no one to control him, completely let loose. He burst into tears, which scared Xiaoxian so much that he almost couldn't sit still. Jiao Wu did not feel anything wrong at all. He directly sat on the ground, with snot and tears, and said to Xiaoxian, "Why did you come so late? If you had come a few years earlier, we would not have been cheated by the traitor. Can we really go back?" "Yes." Hearing Xiaoxian's answer, Jiao Wu cried louder. He cried and sniffed, then cried and sniffed again. Xiaoxian's face twitched. He touched the animal skin bag, took out a piece of cold barbecue and handed it to him. He stopped crying. Jiao Wu sat there, gnawing and sniffing. Xiaoxian did not care about him. He recorded the details of Jiao Wu and his brothers in the animal skin roll. This beast skin scroll also recorded the things about Yan Shua, Old He, and the others. None of them were left out, including that traitor. Chapter 203. Yan Ji went out to find Jiao Wu. Jiao Wu was sitting there eating meat. No one knew what he was thinking. Xiaofan looked around the room. Thinking that Yan Ji and the others worked in the fleet every day, he rummaged through another animal skin bag. There was a pack of herbs in it. The herbs brought from the tribe were not enough. When he killed the people of the Wuxia tribe, he used a lot because he was injured. Now he put some herbs he found in the old haunt in the animal skin bag. Xiaofan kicked Jiao Wu, who was still sitting on the ground, and handed him the medicine wrapped in a leaf. Go and boil this. Smelling the medicine, Jiao Wu showed a happy expression. Medicine? We usually don't have much time to go out to find medicine, and we don't dare to go out. We can only wait for the wounds to heal. But sometimes Mu Qian will bring some. On the hands and faces of Yan Ji and Jiao Wu, there were some scars of different sizes. Some seemed to have been there for a long time, and some seemed to have appeared recently. They cut trees in the forest, carried wood, chopped firewood, or did other work. They were often injured. Few were seriously injured, but many had minor injuries. When the medicine was almost boiled, Yan Ji came with Yan Zhua and a woman, who was Yan Zhua's wife, called Zhen. She was also a descendant of the Yanjiao tribe. She came to the Longboat tribe 2 years ago. After 2 years of living together, Yan Ji and the others really accepted Zhen. Yan Zhua and Zhen had a family, and the couple lived next door to Yan Ji and his brother. Because Yan Ji and the others added Yan or Jiao in front of their names, Zhen added Yan in front of her name, so now she was called Yan Zhen. Yan Zhua and his wife, who came back with Yan Ji, were excited. They had heard from Yan Ji about Xiaofan's origin and that Xiaofan wanted to take them away. Back then, they had been deceived and had been taught a lesson in blood. But this time, it was real. The totem warriors were genuine. Drink some medicine first. Xiaofan poured the boiled medicine into 4 wooden bowls. Without asking any questions, after thanking him, the 4 of them picked up the bowls and drank the medicine, regardless of whether it was still hot or not. After drinking a bowl of medicine, Yan Ji felt less tired after a busy day. Although the weather was very cold, the medicine had a warm current flowing through his body, making him feel very comfortable. While they were talking, Mu Qian came over again in a hurry. What's wrong? Yan Ji wiped off the snow on Mu Qian's head, adjusted her leather hat and asked. Our shaman said that there might be a heavy snow in the next 2 days. It will be heavier than last year. He asked everyone to be prepared. You guys should also be on guard. Originally, Mu Qian wanted to bring 2 old animal skin coats, but she was stopped by her brother. Even when she came out to inform them, she had to sneak out while her brother and father were busy. What? The snow this year is heavier than last year? Jiao Wu asked in surprise. Well, you should prepare more. I can't help much. Mu Qian sniffed her nose, which was red from the cold. Did your brother scold you? Yan Ji asked. Mu Qian bowed her head and said nothing. Xiaofan thought that this girl was really good. She came to help Yan Ji twice in the cold weather. When the time came, Yan Ji could take her back to the tribe. The shaman would definitely not stop him. But now, looking at Yan Ji, he knew that he was very sad. After all, he was still a wanderer who had not awakened his totem power. Thinking of something, Xiaofan winked at Yan Ji. Wait a minute. Yan Ji said to Mu Qian, and then walked aside with Xiaofan. You can give this to her. Xiaofan gave Yan Ji a piece of jade. This piece of jade was not big. It was taken back by Xiaofan from a robber. Even in the cold winter, this piece of jade still had a touch of warmth. You, go ahead. Xiaofan said, we're all from the same tribe, so we're a family outside. Besides, I still need your help later. Thank Thank you. Yan Ji made a note of this in his heart. He wanted to thank Xiaoxian in the future. Although he had given some things to Mu Qian, they were very ordinary small things. Without looking at the two people, Xiaoxian went into the inner room and put a few pieces of jade, shells, and some small pieces of water moonstones in the inner room. He gave them to Jiao Wu and Yan Zhua. Can you exchange these things here for some thick animal skins and food? Well, we don't need too much food. We need animal skins that can keep us warm. As for the house, bring some wood back to strengthen it. Even if we leave, we have to stay here for a few more days in this weather. If the jade and water moonstones were too good, they would be too eye-catching and would bring trouble to Yan Ji and the others. What Xiaoxian took out were the worst things he had, but these were enough to exchange for a few thicker animal skin coats. After talking with Yan Zhua and Jiao Wu, Yan Ji came back. Xiaoxian looked outside the door. Mu Qian was going back to the longboat tribe. Don't you want to see her off? Xiaoxian was puzzled. Just now, Yan Ji seemed to care about her. Why didn't he see her off? See her off? Why should I? Not only Yan Ji, but also Jiao Wu and Yan Zhuo were puzzled. Xiaoxian was silent. If I send her back, it will cause trouble. Yan Ji whispered. Xiaoxian thought about it and agreed. There were some things that the people of the longboat tribe could do, but the wanderers could never do. No matter what the relationship between the people of the longboat tribe was, it was a conflict within the tribe. No matter what happened, it was their own business. Others could not interfere, nor were they qualified to interfere. Just like the people of the longboat tribe who had not awakened their totem power, they were bullied, beaten or scolded in the tribe. Most of the people in the tribe did not care. But if these people were bullied outside, it was a matter of the whole tribe's reputation and a provocation to the tribe. The longboat tribe would definitely interfere. Therefore, even if a person did not have a high status in the tribe, in the wanderer area of the tribe, he was definitely a precious species. Most people did not dare to provoke him. On the contrary, it was safer for Mu Qian to go back alone. It was very discouraging. It's okay. When the Yinjiao tribe comes back, those people will not dare to scold you. Xiaoxian patted Yan Ji's shoulder and comforted him. I will go out to exchange things and inform others about the snow. Yan Zhuo called Jiao Wu and left together. They had good relationships with their friends in the wanderer area, so they naturally had to tell them about the snow. Yan Ji intended to find someone to ask if there was any wood to exchange. Yan Zhen was packing things in the house. The house of Jiao Wu and Jiao Wu was not too small, so Xiaoxian intended to live here. There were many things to discuss with them, so he did not have to go back and forth. Before that, Xiaoxian had to go to the boat and inform Yang Sui. Walking out of the door, Xiaoxian looked at the surrounding houses. In fact, the people of the Yinjiao tribe were not ignorant. At least they had an advantage in building houses. In order to withstand the rainy season and the strong winter wind, they had to be protected from rain and thick snow. Naturally, the houses were strong. In comparison, the house on this side seemed even frilier. When he came back, he would help Yan Ji to strengthen them. Xiaoxian thought. When he returned to the boat, Yang Sui did not fall asleep, but was vigilant. Seeing Xiaoxian, Yang Sui breathed a sigh of relief. What's the matter? Xiaoxian asked. Yang Sui carefully listened to the movements around and lowered his voice to Xiaoxian. The traveling team is not a good person. That's good. I plan to live somewhere else. Where can you live? Have you found your tribe? Yang Sui asked. Seeing Xiaoxian nod, Yang Sui immediately packed his things and drank the remaining hot soup in the pot. He wiped his mouth and said, I'll leave with you. Your tribe has more space, right? Even if there is no room, we can sleep on the floor. When Xiaofan and Yang Sui got off the boat, they happened to see several people walking towards the boat hill. Xiaofan remembered that they were the traveling team who lived on the boat before him. These people were talking and laughing as they walked towards the boat. When they saw Xiaofan and Yang Sui, they glanced at their clothes and continued to talk and laugh as they walked towards them. When they passed by these people, Xiaofan smelled a strong smell of blood. Although there was no trace of blood on these people, Xiaofan could smell it. These people had just killed people. Let's go. Yang Sui pulled Xiaofan and whispered to urge him to leave. Chapter 204. The environment and conditions of the wanderers' residential area could not be compared with those of the longboat tribe. Yang Sui looked around at the dilapidated wooden houses. There were many big cracks between the logs. He seriously doubted whether he would be frozen to death if he lived there. However, it was better to be frozen to death than to be killed. Xiaofan took Yang Sui to the wooden house of Yan Ji and his brother. Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu had gone out to exchange animal skins and had not yet returned. Yan Ji was repairing the wooden house in the snow. Yan Ji and his brothers were inevitably suspicious and wary of Yang Sui. If it were not for Xiaofan, they would not have let Yang Sui in. You go in first. I will help you repair the wooden house. Xiaofan said to Yang Sui. Okay. Yang Sui immediately went into the house. It was too cold outside. He did not want to stay outside and be frozen. Many of the wood brought back by Yan Ji had not been chopped. Xiaofan chopped it with a knife and handed it to Yan Ji. Yan Ji looked at the cross-section of the wood. It was much smoother than the wood they chopped. It could be seen how fast the knife chopped. This was the power of a totem warrior. Thinking that he would also have such power, Yan Ji's heart was burning. After the wooden house was strengthened and repaired, Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu also came back with things. However, they did not come back directly with animal skins. Instead, they wrapped the animal skins with a layer of hay. It looked like they were going to use the hay to make a bed or light a fire. This method was more covert and cautious. It would not attract attention. After all, the two suddenly came back with so many animal skins. It seemed strange. As soon as they entered the house, Xiaofan found that Jiao Wu and the others' attitudes towards Yang Sui were very subtle. They were a little cautious and cautious. However, compared to the other two emotions, they were much less. When Xiaofan and Yan Ji entered the house, Yang Sui was bragging about his trip. After exaggerating and embellishing, Jiao Wu was stunned. Even Yan Zhuo and Yan Zhen were listening with great interest. Although he knew that Yang Sui's words were not completely true, what he said was indeed very attractive. Seeing Xiaofan come in, Jiao Wu, who was the most impatient one, hurriedly asked Xiaofan. Yang Sui said that he is the candidate of the shaman of their tribe. Is it true? Xiaofan looked at Yang Sui. Seeing that Yang Sui didn't mind saying it out loud, he nodded and said, yes. Once they got Xiaofan's confirmation, they looked at Yang Sui even more obviously. Shaman, the shaman of an entire tribe. Although he was only a candidate now, he must be a very powerful person to be chosen as a candidate. After living in the longboat tribe for so many years, Yan Ji and the others had never seen any shamans, even the shamans of the longboat tribe. Xiaofan finally understood why these people were so cautious around Yang Sui. Perhaps Yang Sui knew the psychology and character of Jiao Wu and the others, so he told them his identity. In this way, he could stay here safely. Many people had a kind of awe for shamans. Yan Ji and the others belonged to this category, probably because the status of shamans in the longboat tribe was very high. But for the wanderers around the Rain tribe, their attitude was different. In a tribe that could burn a shaman to death after he failed to pray for rain, the status of shamans was far lower than that of other tribes. Of course, if a shaman could pray for rain successfully, his status would naturally rise a lot. By the way, brother, when Yan Zhuo and I went to exchange for animal skins, we heard that another wanderer was killed. Jiao Wu said with a serious face. I heard that they were killed when they went to exchange for food, and their bodies were directly thrown into the river. Yan Zhuo also told what he had heard. Who killed them? People of the Longboat tribe? Yang Sui asked doubtfully. No, Yan Ji shook his head, it was a traveling team. Every year, many wanderers die in the hands of travelers. The Longboat tribe only allows wanderers to live here. As long as they don't make a big fuss, they don't care. Besides, they don't want too many wanderers to live next to their tribe. Yan Ji explained calmly. He had already seen this many times and was used to it. In fact, not only in the Longboat tribe, but also in every tribe, the number of wanderers around was always stable and would not exceed the range that the local tribe could accept. And for the private disputes and killings, the people of the tribe acquiesced. If someone helped them to clean up, they would naturally be happy to watch the fun. When Yan Zhuo and Jiao Wu went out to exchange animal skins, they were very cautious. They even used hay as a cover. In addition to guarding against other wanderers in the wanderer area, they also guarded against the wanderers who temporarily stayed in the Longboat tribe. Those wanderers were all totem warriors. If they really caused trouble, they would be more dangerous than the wanderers in the wanderer area. It's them? Yang Sui looked at Xiaofan. I used to think that those people were not good people. They gathered together to discuss something. It turns out that they were going to kill people. Xiaofan recalled that when he and Yang Sui got off the boat, they met those people. It should be when they returned to the boat after killing the wanderers. The atmosphere in the room was a little dignified. Be careful these days. When the weather gets better, we will leave. Xiaofan said. The weather here was different from that of the Yanjiao tribe on the other side of the river. It did not snow all the time in winter. Most of the time, it was sunny. Even heavy snow was rare. Hearing Xiaofan's words, Yan Ji and the others were looking forward to it. This time, they would really leave here. They would go back to the tribe, instead of being deceived to go to an unknown place. Yang Sui, when will the heavy snow come? Xiaofan asked. It should be in the evening. Wait, let me see. Yang Sui opened the window a little and looked at the sky. Yan Ji and the others did not dare to make a sound, for fear of disturbing the candidate of the shaman. At the same time, they thought that he was indeed a candidate of the shaman. He could even predict the weather. Half a minute later, Yang Sui closed the window. Before it gets dark, there will be heavy snow. It will be lighter tomorrow morning, but it will continue to snow heavily. About 3 days later, the snow will stop completely. There will be several sunny days, but I can't predict the future. No matter what the future would be like, at least Yang Sui had predicted the recent weather, and he was more accurate than the shaman of the Longboat tribe. Seeing the admiration in the eyes of Yan Ji and the others, Yang Sui was proud again. I am the first candidate of the shaman. You are amazing. Jiao Wu was a person who easily showed his emotions, so he immediately began to praise him. If it were the shaman of the Yanjiao tribe here, perhaps these people would directly kneel down and worship him. Xiaofan thought that the shaman was good at deceiving people. While he was thinking, Xiaofan heard an eagle cry. The sound was not loud, so Yan Ji and the others could not hear it. However, Yang Sui, who was proudly bragging to Jiao Wu, paused and looked outside. Jiao Wu, go out and drag in the things that have fallen on the ground outside. Xiaofan said. Things that have fallen on the ground? What are they? Jiao Wu walked out of the door in confusion and looked around. The surrounding families had already known that there would be heavy snow in the past 2 days, so they had also repaired their houses. Now everyone closed their doors and windows and stayed at home. The ground and the roof were all white. I didn't see anything. Jiao Wu muttered. He looked around again and again, trying to discern if there was anything suspicious on the ground, if it was the thing Xiao Xian wanted to drag into the house. However, other than snow, there was nothing. Yan Ji and the others in the house were also confused. What had fallen outside? Just when they were about to ask Xiao Xian, Yan Ji heard a bang outside. What's wrong? Yan Ji asked Jiao Wu outside. Jiao Wu pushed the door open and said to the people in the house, "Wild, wild, wild, wild boar." Just now, Jiao Wu was looking around and did not pay attention to the sky. When he heard the sound coming from the sky, he looked up and saw a big bird swooping down quickly. Jiao Wu's first thought was to run away. However, when he took 2 steps, he felt something falling from the sky and falling beside him. He turned his head and saw a wild boar. It was quite big. Looking at the sky again, the eagle had flown high again and soon disappeared from Jiao Wu's sight. Looking at the dead but still warm wild boar on the ground, Jiao Wu could not make a decision. He could only ask the people in the house. Hearing Jiao Wu's words, Yan Ji and the others were also confused. Wild boar? How could there be a wild boar? That's it. Drag it in. Before Xiao Xian said anything, Yang Sui said impatiently. He was hungry now. But Yan Ji and the others were worried that the wild boar outside was someone else's prey. Snatching prey would lead to a fight. They did not want to have a conflict with others now. Because of the totem, they had attracted a lot of attention. Even the Longboat tribe had noticed them. The Longboat tribe allowed wanderers to live here, but totem warriors were absolutely not allowed. If Jiao Wu and his brother were totem warriors, they would be driven out immediately. In winter, it was so cold and dangerous. If they were driven out, they would have no chance to survive. They could only endure and control the little power in their bodies. Fortunately, after that day, the totem did not appear again. It was right to be cautious, but wild boar. What a good food. Right at the door. They hesitated. Jiao Wu glanced at the wild boar on the ground outside and then looked at Xiao Xian. Drag it in. It's our prey. Xiao Xian said. Since Xiao Xian said so, Jiao Wu immediately dragged the wild boar in. Peel it. Yan Zhuo said to his wife and then went out. I'll clean up the blood outside. Yan Ji also opened the window and carefully looked around. Living in the wanderer area, they had to be very careful. After all, they were not strong enough. Xiao Xian originally wanted to leave and go to the nearby mountains, but Cha-Cha had already caught the wild boar. Cha-Cha threw away the prey and ran away. It was not willing to stay in the Longboat tribe. It was happy in the forest. During dinner, Xiao Xian told Yan Ji and the others about Cha-Cha, so that they could be mentally prepared. After leaving the Longboat tribe, they would meet Cha-Cha sooner or later. Today, Yan Ji and the others were surprised one after another. They were excited all night. Xiao Xian was also thinking about the next plan. Only Yang Sui was still sleeping like a pig. As Yang Sui said, before dark, the snow suddenly became heavier. Large snowflakes fell. After a night, there was a layer of snow outside. When they stepped on it, the snow reached their ankles. Such snow and thickness were nothing in the Yanjiao tribe, but here, it was different. Heavy snow was not common here. Sometimes, heavy snow could not be seen for several years. When they got up in the morning, the snow was much lighter, but there were still thick clouds in the sky. Yan Ji and the others now completely believed in Yang Sui's ability. According to Yang Sui's words yesterday, the snow would be lighter in the morning, but after a while, heavy snow would fall again. They had to prepare more things before the snow fell. They also had to prepare more water, food and other things. Xiaofan intended to take a stroll in the nearby forest to see if he could hunt some prey. Yesterday's wild boar had already been eaten by several people. It had to be said that the people of the Flaming Horns tribe had a large appetite. Even if they had not fully awakened their totemic power, Yanji and the others, including Yanjua's wife Yanzhen, ate a lot. Yanji wanted to save some food, but was stopped by Xiaofan. They had to take care of their bodies these days. After they recovered, they could continue their journey as soon as possible. Yanjua and Jiaowu planned to exchange for some animal skins. After they heard that wanderers were killed, they became more careful. They did not exchange all the animal skins, but planned to exchange them in several batches. Otherwise, the things Xiaofan gave him could be exchanged for too many animal skins. If he brought them back, it would be too eye-catching. He didn't even get a pile of hay back home. Except for Yang Sui, the others had finished their work and were about to go out. At this time, someone suddenly ran over. Xiaofan had seen the person before. When he met Jiaowu was quarreling with someone. This person was He-Er, the one who chased after them. "What's wrong, He-Er?" Yanji asked. Yanji, quickly find a place to hide. Or, go to Mu Qian and ask her for help. He-Er's voice was urgent. What happened? Jiaowu asked. Although he quarreled with He-Er and the others yesterday, he just could not help it. They had a good relationship. They could live better together. Did you go to exchange for animal skins yesterday? He-Er asked. Yes. Yanji did not hide this. Did you bring the jades there? I heard that the person who traded with you told the travelers about this matter. I think those people might do something bad to you. Leave quickly. Jade? Before Jiaowu said anything, Yanjua could not help but exclaim. Because jade was more precious than water moonstones and shell coins, for the sake of safety, Jiaowu and Yanjua did not intend to take out the jade. However, when Yanjua was exchanging animal skins, he met a good friend who worked on the same ship as him. Yesterday, when Yanjua was taking out shell coins, that person saw the jade. Yanjua asked him to keep it a secret. He trusted this friend. After all, they had helped each other a lot and had known each other for many years. At that time, that person also promised not to tell others. But now, was it him or not? He-Er, thank you. Yanji said. Well, you should go to Mu Qian. It's snowing now. It's difficult to survive. Go to Mu Qian and ask her to help you. Yanji did not want to bother Mu Qian. He decided to leave here first to avoid the snow. It's too late. Xiaofan said. What? Yanji was thinking about where to hide. When he heard Xiaofan's words, he did not respond immediately. Xiaofan looked in one direction. On the other side, a group of people wearing thick animal skins was coming over. Chapter 205. There were more than 10 people coming over. Looking at their clothes, they knew they were not from the Wanderers' area. Even if they didn't wear thick animal skins, they could tell from the way they walked. People in the Wanderers' area were either timid or very cautious. They were always afraid of provoking someone or getting into trouble, but the travelers were not. Looking at the people striding towards them, He-Er, who came to inform them, shrank his neck. He didn't expect these people to come so soon. Yanji, go and find Mu Qian. Hurry up, maybe you can stop them, or it will be too late. He-Er said anxiously. He had lived in this place since he was a child. Later, he got to know Jiaowu and his brothers and became familiar with them. They formed a group and supported each other. Although many people who grew up with him had passed away, at least they could live until today. He cherished these friends very much. In terms of benefits, Yan Ji and the others' fighting strength was above average in the Wanderers area. With them, the strength of the small group could be improved. But if these travelers came to trouble them today, they would be miserable. Seeing Yan Ji was still unwilling, He said, "How about I go to the Longboat tribe to find her?" "No need, and now the Longboat tribe has closed the gate," Yan Ji said. It was the rule of the Longboat tribe to close the gate during the heavy snow. They were worried that people outside would sneak into the Longboat tribe's habitat because they couldn't bear the heavy snow. So when the weather was bad, the Longboat tribe would close the gate. They wouldn't let people get close to the land border. Anyone who approached the tribe's habitat except for the gate would be attacked by the patrolling warriors. With the strength of the Wanderers, they couldn't stand it. Maybe they would be shot by spears or arrows before they could say what they wanted. Then let's run away. He pulled Yan Ji and wanted to run away, but he didn't move. He pulled him again, but he still didn't move. In fact, when Yan Ji saw the aggressive travelers, his first thought was to avoid them, escape from here, and find a place to hide. They had encountered similar things before. Except for one time when Mu Qian happened to encounter them, they left the Wanderer area to find a place to hide, and came back after the travelers left. But now, Xiaofan didn't move. From the looks of it, he had no intention of leaving. Yan Ji naturally would not leave Xiaofan alone. Right now, Xiaofan was their only hope. Even if they lost their lives here, they couldn't let anything happen to Xiaofan. Yan Ji moved his sight from Xiaofan to Yang Sui, who was standing in the room and looking outside. He found that this candidate did not seem to be in a hurry. Could it be that they had the confidence to deal with that group of travelers? Yes, Xiaofan was a totem warrior, and Yang Sui was the future shaman of the Rain tribe. Those travelers should be careful. In most cases, travelers would not offend the totem warriors and shamans of the tribe. He saw that Yan Ji didn't move, so he turned to pull Jiao Wu. He found that Jiao Wu also stood there and didn't leave. He looked at Yan Zhua and his wife, who were about to pack up and run away, but put down their things. They also didn't intend to leave. Jiao Wu didn't think as much as his brother. He was not so smart. He saw that Xiaofan didn't move and his brother didn't leave, so he naturally wouldn't run away. He you leave first, Yan Ji said to He Those people were obviously coming for them. He was already very loyal to them by coming to inform them. If he stayed, he would only be affected. He didn't understand why these people didn't want to find help or run away when they knew that the travelers were coming for them. Did they want to die? He anxiously scratched his head and hurriedly ran away. I'll find help. He didn't mean to find help in the Longboat tribe. The Longboat tribe was closed by the heavy snow, so he naturally wouldn't go there to seek death. He just wanted to find some wanderers who had a good relationship with him to see if they could help. Usually, they were quite united. As more than 10 travelers came closer and closer, the people who were carefully paying attention to them were sure that they weren't the target. They immediately felt relieved. As long as they didn't come for trouble, it was fine. Needless to say, the expressions of the people who came quickly told everyone, I'm here to find trouble and kill people. After seeing the people walking in front, Yang Sui whispered to Xiaofan, they are the people we saw when we got off the boat yesterday. That was to say, these people were very likely to be the murderers who killed wanderers yesterday. They could kill 1 or 2 wanderers yesterday, so they could kill 4 or 5 today. As long as they didn't make a big fuss and didn't destroy the wanderers' area, the Longboat tribe wouldn't care. Xiaofan had seen the leader yesterday, but in less than a day, he had forgotten Xiaofan. Probably in his heart, he didn't take Xiaofan seriously at all. He wouldn't spend much time to remember insignificant people. The leader walked to the front of the cabin and glanced at the people standing at the door. He was surprised that these people didn't run away when they saw them. They also sent people to guard the nearby intersections. It seemed that they didn't need to. "Who is Yanzhua?" the leader asked. His eyes were like a knife as he glanced at them one by one. In his eyes, these people were all the same. However, when he saw the animal skin clothes that Yan Ji and the others were wearing, his eyes lit up. He didn't take a fancy to those animal skins. Those animal skins were not good enough for him. Now the animal skins that Yan Ji and the others were wearing were exchanged by Yan Zhua and Jiao Wu yesterday. Because it was cold, they all wore thicker animal skins. As Xiao Xian said, they had to take care of their bodies. They couldn't get sick so that they could continue their journey. Under Xiao Xian's instructions, each of them wore 1 or 2 more animal skins. People in the Wanderers area rarely wore so many animal skins at once. Moreover, these animal skins were not worn out. This also confirmed the news that the travelers had heard. Hearing the man's question, Yan Ji didn't move. Xiao Xian also didn't move. Only Jiao Wu, who was confused and couldn't help glancing at Yan Zhua. That man was also sensitive. He caught Jiao Wu's little movement and looked at Yan Zhua standing next to him with an evil smile. "Are you Yan Zhua? I lost a few pieces of jade yesterday. I exchanged them with the Mang tribe. Who would have thought that I would lose them when I got off the boat? I heard that you picked up my jade, right?" The man's story was too fake. Moreover, when he said it, he had an expression that said, "I am here to rob you." When Yan Zhua was asked to look for him, he already knew who the informant was. He guarded against wanderers and travelers, but he was betrayed by his own people again. This time, it was not a swindler, but a person who grew up with him and was regarded as a good brother. This made Yan Zhua feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, this time, because of him, everyone was dragged into this trouble. Of course, he would never admit to the matter of the jade. "I didn't pick up any jade," Yan Zhua said. "No?" The man stared at Yan Zhua like a sharp knife, "But someone said that you picked it up. Otherwise, how did you exchange for so many animal skins?" As the man spoke, his voice became louder and louder. There were even some totem patterns on his face. The wanderers who were hiding at home and listening outside were also puzzled when they heard this. Why did Yan Ji suddenly have so many animal skins? Did he really pick up something good? The leader of the travelers was an intermediate totem warrior. When an intermediate totem warrior faced ordinary people, if he used his totem power, it would bring a lot of pressure to ordinary people. However, when the man looked at Yan Zhua, Xiao Xian stood in front of Yan Zhua. "I don't know who you heard it from," Xiao Xian said. "The thing that Yan Zhua used to exchange for the animal skin was given to him by me." Seeing that someone actually stood up for Yan Zhua, a trace of anger flashed through that person's heart. But after hearing Xiao Xian's words, that person's heart was filled with joy. He was originally puzzled about the origin of the jade, and wanted to investigate from Yan Zhua. But now that he knew, it saved him a lot of effort. Looking at the young man standing in front of Yan Zhua, the man thought for a while and felt that there was nothing special about him. His clothes were not much better than those wanderers, and he looked very young. Young people were full of vigor. A greedy look appeared in the man's eyes. His smile deepened, and with a hint of arrogance, he said, "Oh, so you stole my jade." Yan Zhua and Jiao Wu were about to say something, but Xiao Xian raised his hand to stop them. He took 3 steps forward and walked in front of the man. As a traveler, he had seen a lot and experienced a lot. He didn't know how many times he had been stimulated between life and death. His intuition was sharper than many people. With Xiao Xian's 3 steps closer, everyone suddenly felt a chill on their backs. Especially the man who was facing Xiao Xian. His arrogant smile disappeared. He felt that his hair stood up. He looked at Xiao Xian with vigilance. "Totem warrior? the man said in surprise. He could only judge that the man in front of him was a totem warrior. As for what level he was at, he couldn't tell. After taking 2 deep breaths and suppressing the bewilderment in his heart, the man moved his neck, dispelling the strange trembling from before. His sturdy arms swung twice, and his robust body seemed to be full of strength. When he swung his arms, the large stone hammer in his hand highlighted his strength even more. There were still traces of dried blood on the stone hammer, causing the hearts of those who saw it to skip a beat. The blood on it should be from the wanderers who were killed yesterday. "Which tribe are you from?" the man asked. Because he often took people everywhere, he was used to speaking with coercion. Xiaofan didn't show any expression to the man's coercion. He said gently, "Yanjiao tribe, Xiaofan." "Yanjiao tribe?" The man repeated the name of the tribe that Xiaofan said. He tried hard to find it in his memory, but couldn't find it. He looked at the man beside him. The man beside him shook his head. He hadn't heard of it either. This tribe that he had never heard of must be a small tribe in some corner. He didn't need to care about it. Travelers wouldn't easily offend people and shamans from tribes, but that was only limited to middle-large tribes. They wouldn't be afraid of small tribes. Even though many of them came from small tribes, they still looked at other small tribes with contempt. "Oh, Xiaofan from the Yanjiao tribe. What a pity. I'm afraid you can't go back." The man said this with a strange ferocity. He really didn't expect to meet a totem warrior from another tribe in the Wanderer area. This more or less disrupted his original plan. But it didn't matter. It was just a small tribe. He believed that even the weakest of the people he brought here could kill this man from a small tribe in some corner. Even if this guy was an intermediate totem warrior, the people he brought here could easily trample him on the ground. "But I don't think anyone can stop me from going back," Xiaofan said without changing his expression. The man's eyes narrowed. He didn't do it himself. He always felt that as the leader, he couldn't do it himself all the time. His subordinates would rush to do it. Therefore, when he wanted to kill Xiaofan, he moved his finger, indicating that the people behind him could start to make trouble. Sure enough, in the next moment, someone came out from the group of travelers and walked quickly to Xiaofan. He held a small stone hammer in his hand and swung it at Xiaofan. Because he ran out so fast, his movements were so big that his feet kicked up a lot of snow on the ground. Everyone thought that they would see the same situation as yesterday. However, they only heard a bang and the sound of bones cracking. The man who ran out with the hammer was smashed to the ground. It looked like he was embedded in the snow. However, Xiaofan, who had just finished beating him up, didn't move his feet at all. All he did was move his arms a little. The stone hammer that was thrown up by its owner fell from the sky. Xiaofan reached out and caught the handle of the stone hammer steadily. He moved it above the man's face and let it fall. Bang! The man who was hit by his own stone hammer screamed. But he only screamed once before he fainted with blood all over his face. He was already on the verge of fainting after being hit by Xiaofan. He really couldn't hold on after being hit by his own stone hammer. The leader of the travelers, who stood in front of Xiaofan, twitched his eyelids several times. His eyes were full of haze and his face was ugly. He really didn't expect that the guy in front of him could beat his subordinate with one punch. Moreover, his movements just now were obviously provocative and disdainful. He was provoking him. Jiao Wu and the others standing behind Xiaofan widened their eyes. They knew that Xiaofan was a totem warrior, but they never thought that Xiaofan could beat a totem warrior with one punch. One punch. As for the travelers who came to cause trouble, their expressions were even more exaggerated. These people's expressions were like seeing a Tyrannosaurus Rex hatched from a quail egg. If they had known that there was a totem warrior here, they would have inquired more. This guy seemed difficult to deal with. When He brought his men over, this was the scene of confrontation that he saw. Chapter 206. Snow began to fall from the sky again, and it was getting heavier and heavier. It was going to be a heavy snowfall as Yang Sui had said. He came here with the people he had persuaded with great difficulty. He was still thinking about how to help, but now he could only stand aside in the cold. However, none of them left. They could tell that something was wrong. Yang Sui, who was hiding behind the door, couldn't help but gather his animal skin coat again. It had nothing to do with the totem warriors. It rarely snowed in their tribe, so he couldn't adapt to the snowy weather here. He sighed in his heart for the terrible weather here. He wanted Xiaofan to beat all those people down, just like how he had killed the people of the Wuxia tribe. How easy it was. While thinking, Yang Sui stopped wrapping his animal skin coat. He looked at the two people who were confronting each other in disbelief. No, how could it be wrong? Because everyone's attention was on Xiaofan, no one noticed Yang Sui's strange behavior. At this moment, the man standing in front of Xiaofan looked terrible. He didn't want to fight with Xiaofan directly, but he didn't want to give up. What's more, he came here with his people arrogantly. If he left without getting anything, he would lose face, and his prestige in the team would be greatly reduced. Yang Sui was not afraid of him at all, and his momentum was not weak. He should be an intermediate totem warrior like himself. He was so young, but he had already reached the intermediate level. Was he really from the small tribe called Yanjiao? Should he stop and leave? No, he couldn't retreat. I'll give you one more chance. Give me those jades. Towards the end of his speech, the man was almost enunciating every word. It could be seen that he was on the verge of exploding. Xiaofan ignored the threat in his eyes. When he finished, he said, "I'll give you one more chance. Get out." This time, not only the leader of the travelers, but also Xiaofan's totem patterns appeared on his face. The totem power in his body was running crazily. The momentum of the two people suddenly rose. Even he and the others, who had just called in reinforcements, could feel it clearly. They were under great pressure. I feel that the battle over there is not something we can participate in. The person beside He said. That man is a totem warrior? How did that idiot Jiao Wu know a totem warrior? The person who spoke was the one who had quarreled with Jiao Wu before. Although they always quarreled, he would still come to help when Jiao Wu and Yan Ji were in trouble. Have you forgotten what happened before? Someone asked in a low voice. Previously, totem tattoos had appeared on Jiao Wu and Yan Ji. Some people said that they might become real totem warriors, but most people didn't believe it. And now, those who didn't believe it at first were starting to have doubts. Everyone's attention was focused on Xiaofan and the traveler. Xiaofan really planned that if he could not avoid it, he would fight against many people. He could not let anything happen to Yan Ji and the others. From Yan Shuo to old He, and now here, Xiaofan was willing to stand up for them and protect them. At the same time, according to the shaman's idea, he could show more people the power of the totem warriors of the Yanjiao tribe. It was not that Xiaofan was arrogant. After meeting some people in the central region, he was confident that he could defeat them. Of course, it would be difficult for him to defeat a strong warrior at the level of the Mang tribe, but Xiaofan was confident that he could fight against people below the intermediate totem warrior level. Because of this, when he saw this group of people coming to make trouble, he did not avoid them. Because there were only 2 intermediate totem warriors in this group, and the rest were junior totem warriors. The traveler could not see Xiaofan's real strength, but Xiaofan could see it clearly when they slightly used their totem power. When this group of people came, they showed their aura along the way, as if they were afraid that others would not know that they were totem warriors. However, whether it was Xiaofan or the man in front of Xiaofan, they all knew that at this time, among the patrolling people of the Longboat tribe, some of the higher-level people should have noticed them. If they fought with all their might, the other party might interfere. They would not be willing to fight with intermediate totem warriors on the edge of the tribe. Yang Sui had said that Xiaofan did not intend to be driven out today because of the recent weather. Since they could not fight directly, they naturally had to compete with their momentum and aura. As the atmosphere became stagnant, the momentum around them became heavier and stronger. Facing Xiaofan, the traveler soon found that things were not as simple as he thought. He thought that Xiaofan was a totem warrior of a small tribe, but he did not expect that this guy had reached the intermediate level. It was as if a heavy mountain had been placed on his back, and this mountain was still gradually growing bigger. If this continued, he might directly collapse. Should he take advantage of Xiaofan's carelessness and attack him? No, he was now more and more nervous, and had no confidence to defeat this young guy in front of him. Just when the traveler was thinking about how to deal with him next, he suddenly felt a very strong sense of trembling, and he could not tell why. The traveler who was a little closer also felt the same sense of trembling, and Yan Ji and the other 3 people standing behind Xiaofan also felt a little strange. People who were far away could not feel the turbulence. They just wondered why the 2 people were still looking at each other affectionately after such a long time. They also wanted to see a fight between totem warriors. Only the totem warrior standing in front of Xiaofan knew that the boy in front of him was not as focused as before. He looked like he was in a daze. This should be the best time for a sneak attack, but the traveler had an intuition that if he took action at this moment, it would not be the boy in front of him who would die, but himself. He often traveled with the traveling team, so he believed in this intuition. If it continued like this, he would lose face at most. Once the situation suddenly changed, he would lose more than face. As for Xiaofan at this moment, he was wondering why the totem in his mind suddenly became so active when he used the totem power. It was too active. What's more, outside the totem of the Flaming Horns tribe, the egg-shaped light cover that covered the outside became bright from the original dim. It was at this time that the double-horn totem inside began to become crazy and active. Not only the size of the totem increased, but the flames wrapped around the horns also became fierce. At this time, Xiaofan felt something strange behind him. He did not look at the traveler in front of him, but turned sideways to look at the 4 wanderers standing behind him. The people who were paying attention to Xiaofan saw Xiaofan's movement and also looked at him. Then, a group of people were stunned. Yan Ji and the other 3 wanderers all had totem patterns on their faces. They were very clear, unlike the previous faint patterns. They were as clear as the totem patterns of the real totem warriors. When Xiaofan turned around, Yang Sui quickly shrank back behind the door. Totem patterns also appeared on his face, but the purpose of using the totem power was to better find the answer to his doubts. In Yang Sui's eyes, Xiaofan was now wrapped in flames. Others could not see such flames, but he, as a candidate of the shaman with the power of inheritance, could see them. If the group of travelers looked at Xiaofan as if a tyrannosaurus had hatched from a quail egg, then Yang Sui looked at Xiaofan as if a Neza had jumped out of a quail egg. He did not believe it, but everything in front of him was true. Xiaofan had said that he was not a shaman, but why did he have the power of the fire seed? Moreover, Yang Sui did not intend to use the totem power, but the unique power of inheritance of the shaman suddenly became active. Because of the active power of inheritance, the totem power also jumped out by itself. Yang Sui was very confused. Who on earth was Xiaofan? What kind of tribe was the Yanjiao tribe? For the first time, Yang Sui was very curious about this tribe that had disappeared for nearly 1,000 years. At the same time, he was very much looking forward to the appearance of this tribe in the central region. At that time, the central region would be very lively, right? Not to mention how shocked Yang Sui was, the group of travelers had already begun to retreat. Totem warriors, for more totem warriors. Didn't they say that there were only wanderers? If they had known that there were so many totem warriors, they would not have come directly to make trouble. It was very easy to escalate the conflict between tribes and lead to a war. Their tribe was not big, so they did not want to cause a war. Besides, several travelers quickly glanced at Xiaofan. This young man's strength was not weak. The so-called Yanjiao tribe should not be too weak, right? Yanji and the others were in a state of excitement. They felt the same feeling as when the totem tattoo appeared that day, the feeling of being full of power and longing for a long time. The difference was that this time, the feeling was stronger. They looked at each other, and after seeing the totem tattoo on each other's faces, they were so excited that they almost jumped up. Everyone hoped that when they were in trouble, they could respond directly instead of running away. However, courage was one thing, and the limitation of strength made them see the gap between them clearly. They could only survive if they understood the current situation. But it was suffocating. Everyone dreamed that one day, they would be able to respond to the troublemakers with a straight back. However, they did not have absolute power, so they could only endure it. But now, it was different. Even if this situation was only temporary, they still had enough confidence. Jiao Wu's square face was full of toughness. He rubbed his hands, and his eyes fell on the last few travelers. He could not deal with the strong ones, but he wanted to try to deal with the weak ones. Unlike the eagerness of Jiao Wu and the others, the faces of the people brought by Hier changed again and again. It turned out that it was not easy for them to muster up the courage to come and fight, but in the end, it was useless. However, Jiao Wu and the others were really enviable. Chapter 207. Large snowflakes were falling, and the people in front of the wooden houses in the Wanderer area were in a bad mood. At the same time, outside the Longboat tribe's habitat, a man was leading a patrol team. He frowned and looked in the direction of the Wanderer area. "There is a conflict in the Wanderer area," the man said. "Is there a fight?" someone in the team asked. If it was just those travelers who killed 2 wanderers, the leader would not have paid so much attention to it. It should be a fight between totem warriors. And they were at least intermediate totem warriors. They could ignore small fights and turn a blind eye to them, but if it was serious, it would be different. "If you want to fight, fine, but don't fight in front of my house. Go away and fight as you like. I don't care if you fight alone or in groups." However, the patrol team did not hear the sound of fighting. Why was the leader so sure that there was a fight over there? "Leader Wedge, do you want to go and have a look?" someone asked. Senior totem warriors generally would not fight around the tribe's territory. Once they did, they would be closely watched by the local tribe. As for how closely they would be watched, only those who had been watched would know. Therefore, most of the time, it was the intermediate totem warriors who caused trouble. Senior totem warriors would not easily get involved. If it was not serious, the Longboat tribe would not know about it. But now, they felt it was very serious. Should they go and have a look? Mu Wedge stood on the tree and thought for a while. He looked at the snow and the sky, and finally he did not let the warriors go there. "It is not serious now. When the snow stops, we will go there and ask what happened," Mu Wedge said. In the Wanderer area, things were getting more and more unexpected. The leader did not want to stay here any longer. He did not know if there would be more accidents if he stayed here. This feeling was very bad, but he knew that it was the best to leave now. As for how to deal with these people, he had to go back and report to the leaders. In the end, they did not get the jade. The group of robbers dragged the only accomplice who was beaten to the ground and left. After Xiaofan calmed down, the totem patterns on the bodies of Yan Ji and the others also disappeared. After all, they were not truly awakened totem warriors. What happened just now was only because of Xiaofan. It was just that no one knew about it. Except for Yang Sui, who was hiding in the cabin with a complicated expression, Yan Ji and the others were all smiling. They were a little regretful that they couldn't fight, but there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Xiaofan, can we really become real totem warriors? Jiao Wu ran over and asked. Xiaofan shifted his thoughts away from the totem and the egg in his mind and replied, yes. Aha! Jiao Wu laughed, looked around, and stared back at those who were hiding in the room to watch the fun. Then, he stopped at He Er and the others and immediately ran over. You guys actually came. What brothers? Jiao Wu said. Without waiting for He Er and the others to speak, Jiao Wu pointed at his own face and said, did you see it just now? Picture. Tang. 1. He Er and the others. Seeing such a vile and smug look, they really wanted to go over and give him a few slaps. Yan Ji went over and threw the arrogant man back to the cabin. Then he thanked He Er and the others seriously. Thank you for coming. No, no need, it didn't work. He Er said with a smile. They grew up together and lived in the slums for more than 20 years. Suddenly, one day, they found that each other was a rich man's son. This kind of feeling was quite awkward. They felt that they could not speak as casually as before. This was similar to He Er's current mood. This was also the difference between the wanderers at the bottom and the totem warriors. However, since it was possible for them to become totem warriors, Yan Ji and the others could not continue to live here. When the snow stopped, people from the longboat tribe would come to drive them away. It was impossible to completely hide it from them. When will you leave? He Er asked. In a few days. When the snow stops, we will leave. Yan Ji said. Jiao Wu, who was thrown into the cabin, came out again. This time, he was no longer arrogant. When he looked at He Er and the others, he was reluctant to part with them. Although they often quarreled and fought, they were very good friends and brothers. They would come to help them when the wanderers came to make trouble. Jiao Wu, your tribe, can wanderers be allowed to live around it? A man behind He Er asked nervously. If they had a good relationship with the totem warriors, they would naturally live a better life around the tribe. Although the longboat tribe could allow them to continue to live, if they could follow Yan Ji and the others and live around the Yanjiao tribe, even if it was a small tribe, it would be better than here. Thinking of the relatives and friends they had lost over the years, they would rather take the risk and leave. This. Jiao Wu could not make the decision. He could only look at Xiaofan. Xiaofan had heard their conversation. He came over and said, of course, but now the tribe is still far away. In a few years, the tribe may come to the central region. Our old home is in the central region. Getting permission, He Er and the others were very happy. As for a few years that Xiaofan said, it could be 3 or 5 years, or 8 or 9 years. But they could wait. As long as there was hope, they could wait. For himself and for his future generations to be better protected. They believed that Yan Ji and the others would definitely help. At least, when their children faced the threat of the wanderers, they could be protected. Among the people brought by He Er, many did not know Xiaofan. They only knew that Xiaofan was a totem warrior who dared to confront the wanderers. They wanted to ask who Xiaofan was, but they were a little timid. After all, they were not familiar with Xiaofan. Seeing these people's embarrassment, Xiaofan showed a friendly smile. My name is Xiaofan of Yanjiao. Xiaofan wrote his name on the thick snow with a stone knife. Xiaofan of Yanjiao. He Er silently remembered this name in his heart. The people around him also remembered this name. Those who were not smart asked their companions to help them remember it. When they went back, they would write it down and keep it well. This was related to their future life. But, how can we find you? Where is the Yanjiao tribe? Someone asked. When the Yanjiao tribe comes back to the central region, you will know. Xiaofan said. At that time, we will come to pick you up. Yanji promised. Without He and his companions, they would not have been able to live until today. Although there was a mutually beneficial relationship among them, their relationship had deepened over the years. They were like relatives and friends. Only those who came with He were guaranteed by Yanji. As for those who did not come, it was unknown whether they could come with them or not. After He and his companions left, Yanji and his companions also returned to the house. Be prepared. Those people do not dare to do anything in the territory of the Longboat tribe, but when we leave, they may not stop. Even if they do not chase us, we will encounter a lot of trouble on our way. Xiaofan said. Well, I will make more wooden arrows these days. Yanzhua said. I will find a chance to exchange for some things. Yanji said. In the next 2 days, the travelers did not come to make trouble. Xiaofan also prepared to leave with Yanji and the others. When the snow stopped and the sky cleared, the Longboat tribe sent people to this place. They found that Yanji and his companions had left, and the wooden house had been given away. The people in the Wanderer area returned to the tribe and reported the results to Mu Wei. As the leader of the patrol team, Mu Wei was confused. The Yanjiao tribe? What tribe is that? Chapter 208. While the patrol leader of the Longboat tribe was thinking about what kind of tribe the Yanjiao tribe was, Xiaofan was taking advantage of the good weather and hurrying on with the others. They had planned to leave by boat, but found that many places on the river were frozen. Although the ice was not very thick, it would certainly make it more troublesome to sail. The Longboat tribe did not have any livestock. Even if they had livestock, they would not trade with others, so they could not ride. In the end, they decided to go on foot. Because there were 4 more people this time, they could not let Cha-Cha carry them like before. Besides, Yanji and the others had not really awakened their totemic power, so it was a little difficult for them to travel. Their speed naturally decreased a lot. After walking for a long time, Xiaofan asked them to stop and have a rest. We should be completely out of the Longboat tribe's range of activities, right? Yang Sui asked. Should be, I have never been so far away. After thinking for a while, Yanji said, except for the time when we left by boat. In the past, they had been deceived and cheated to leave. The place where the accident happened was far away from the Longboat tribe. If they were not lucky, they would not have been able to safely return to the Wanderer area of the Longboat tribe. But this time, their mood was completely different. Xiao Wu looked around. The surrounding mountains were covered with a layer of white. In some places, the snow had already melted, exposing the rocks and vegetation below. If the weather continues like this for 5 or 6 days, more places will be exposed. The weather here was much better than in the tribe, Xiaofan thought. At this time, it should still be snowing and windy in the tribe. An eagle's cry came from the sky. It sounded like an ordinary eagle's cry, but only Xiaofan, who was familiar with Cha-Cha, knew that Cha-Cha had found something unusual. Someone is coming. Xiaofan said. The few people who were resting immediately tensed up. Who? Yanji asked. Xiaofan looked at the sky, and then looked in one direction. That was the direction of the Longboat tribe. People of the Longboat tribe? Yanzhuo was puzzled. They rarely come out in winter. No, it's not the Longboat tribe, Xiaofan said. It could be those travelers from before. Hearing that he was a traveler, Yanji and the others were worried. They actually chased us all the way here? Jiao Wu couldn't believe it. Although it wasn't snowing in the middle of winter, it was still cold outside. How could these people not give up? Looking at the sky again, Xiaoxian said to Yan Ji and the others, "Find a place to hide." "What about you, Xiaoxian?" Yan Ji asked. "Don't worry about me," Xiaoxian said. Yan Ji sighed. This feeling of helplessness made them very depressed, but they had no choice but to do as Xiaoxian said. This was the only way. If they rashly jumped out, they would simply be throwing their lives away and dragging them down. Over there, Wuxia, who was the one who confronted Xiaoxian in the Wanderer area that day, was chasing him with his people. That day, after Wuxia and his people returned from the Wanderer area, the more he thought about it, the more he hated them. After reporting the situation to the leader of the traveling team, he was not only scolded, but also beaten. It took him 2 days to recover. Originally, he thought that the leader would help them teach the warrior of the Yanjiao tribe a lesson, but the people of the Longboat tribe came to find them. Several senior totem warriors of the traveling team were tripped up, so Wuxia took the opportunity to lead his people to find them first. There were still some footprints in the snow. Although the footprints were shallow, Wuxia was sure that they belonged to those people in the Wanderer area. The Wanderer's footprints were different from those of the totem warriors. He just didn't know whether that guy was still there. Thinking of Xiaoxian, Wuxia was a little afraid, but he only hesitated for a moment, and then continued to chase. He thought that as long as he could delay that guy for a while, even if he couldn't beat him, he could delay until the leader came. Wuxia was confident that he could delay that guy. While thinking, Wuxia suddenly had a strong sense of danger. "Watch out!" Wuxia shouted. In front of them, a man jumped down from a tree. Before Wuxia could see clearly who it was, the man in front of him was kicked away and fell towards Wuxia. Wuxia dodged the person who was thrown at him, but the people behind him who reacted slower suffered. They were hit and fell down together with him, rolling several times in the snow. Without looking at the man behind him, Wuxia's eyelids twitched. He knew that the man was not a simple man. Fast. Too fast. Wuxia didn't look at the man, but only paid attention to the man's stone knife, which was like a storm. He raised the stone axe in his hand and blocked it with the axe body. Bang! A deep crack appeared on the stone axe. The difference between the stones was obvious at this time. Wuxia always thought that his stone axe was made of the best stone. Usually, he was happy to chop it, but he didn't expect that today it would be broken directly. If he could grab it and use it himself, at this time, Wuxia's first thought was not to be chopped by the man, but to grab the knife. However, the feeling from his hand made him unable to think about anything else. Wuxia, who was holding the stone axe, stepped back 2 steps because of the swift and violent cut. His dark face flushed. The strong impact from the axe made the totem power in his body chaotic, and the muscles on his arm were shocked by the impact. His wrist that was holding the axe trembled a few times, and he almost couldn't hold it and let it fall out of his hand. What a strong force! In horror, Wuxia looked at the man who chopped the knife. Instantly, the shock in his heart deepened. It was this guy. Wuxia still remembered that when he was in the Wanderer area of the Longboat tribe, Xiaoxian's overbearing momentum was directly suppressed by him. But now, Xiaoxian's momentum seemed to be hidden. If it weren't for his keen intuition, which was brought by years of traveling experience, he might not have been able to block the knife. However, it was this situation where all the auras were hidden that made Wuxia feel even more uneasy. Before Wuxia could react, Xiaoxian kicked his lower abdomen. The strong force made Wuxia unable to stand still, and his legs, which were rooted to the ground, became weak. He stepped back several steps, and his waist was bent because of the kick. The undigested roast meat he had at noon was vomited out together with his stomach juice. Although he was shocked, Wuxia could not restrain his anger after being beaten by Xiaoxian one after another. He held back his anger, and before he could stand firm, he threw a small stone axe at Xiaofan from his waist. Xiaofan avoided the stone axe that was spinning rapidly in the air. The stone axe didn't hit Wuxia, but was nailed on the trunk of a tree behind Xiaofan, and the tree was directly cut off. Ignoring the fallen tree behind him, Xiaofan rushed to Wuxia, and chopped more fiercely than before. The sound of stones colliding with stones and the sound of wood breaking was heard almost at the same time. The wooden handle of the stone axe in Wuxia's hand was shattered by the strong impact, and wood chips splashed everywhere. Xiaofan's second chop happened to hit the mark left by the previous chop. The two chop overlapped, and the stone axe was almost cut off, with only a little connection. Xiaofan shook his wrist holding the stone knife, and the remaining part of the knife vibrated, breaking the last connection of the stone axe. Before the two pieces of the stone axe fell, Xiaofan used the sharp half of the stone knife to hit another person who was running over. The spear in the man's hand couldn't block the other half of the stone axe, and he was directly hit and fell to the ground. The other half of the stone axe was kicked by Xiaofan to Wuxia's chest. Bang! With the muffled sound of the stone hitting his chest and the sound of bones breaking, Wuxia flew out and slid several meters in the snow. This time, he didn't spit out any food. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The pain in his abdomen and chest traveled along his nerves to every part of his body. His arm, which had been numbed by the powerful impact earlier, felt a clear pain again. He even felt a moment of dizziness. When Wuxia regained consciousness, there were only 3 people left out of the 10 people he brought with him, and they were too timid to fight. Wuxia was very regretful now. He really didn't expect that Xiaofan could be so strong. Originally, he thought that he could delay for a while, but unexpectedly, he only had time to block 2 attacks and barely blocked the first one. However, that was all. He couldn't do more. Falling to the ground, Wuxia spat out blood again, but he didn't faint. He didn't care about the 3 travelers whose legs were trembling, but stared at Xiaofan fiercely. You wait. You all. Wait. 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 Our. Cough. Before he finished his words, Wuxia coughed several times, and he couldn't finish his words. When he was on the ship of the longboat tribe, he was beaten by the leader of the traveling team, and his old injury hadn't fully recovered. Now he suffered a heavy setback, and he couldn't speak clearly. Chapter 209. Looking away from Wuxia, Xiaofan looked at the 3 people who were standing there, trembling. Wuxia had brought 10 people, but he only killed 5 of them. He let the last one go. That man ran towards the direction behind him, where Yanji and the others were hiding. Xiaofan deliberately let him go. That man was just a junior totem warrior. Compared with the previous people who were killed, although his eyes were fierce, he was hesitant when he rushed over. Obviously, he was worried and afraid of death. This kind of person was not as decisive as the others. It was better for Yanji and the others to practice their skills. To continue the journey, he could not rely on himself. Yanji and the others had to support him. Moreover, Cha-Cha also went there, just in case. Xiaofan was not worried. As for the 3 travelers standing there, the 3 travelers who were still alive felt Xiaofan's eyes on them. They trembled more violently. Their legs felt soft, and they almost knelt on the ground. They also wanted to run away, but found that when Xiaofan looked at them, they did not even have the courage to run away. Which tribe are you from? Xiaofan asked. Before Wuxia finished his words, Xiaofan wanted to know which tribe he was talking about. I. The middleman rolled his eyes, thinking about how to answer. Just when he was thinking, the cold tip of the knife was pressed against his throat. He was so scared that he almost peed. Don't. I'll talk. I'll talk. We are from the Dishan tribe. We are all from the Dishan tribe. The man's face was pale with fear. He did not have time to think too much and quickly answered. You are all travelers from the Dishan tribe? Xiaofan looked at the man's eyes and asked. The person being questioned could only nod his head repeatedly. Spare my life. The man next to him knelt down and begged. Xiaofan looked at them and turned away. The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. Was he letting them go? With their backs facing Xiaofan, the three men's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Once their leader arrived, this brat would suffer. Just as the three of them were about to run away, they had only taken a step when they felt a sharp gust of cold wind sweep past them. Then, they lost consciousness. Xiaofan shook off the blood on his saber and stabbed Wuxia, who could no longer speak. Then he walked towards Yanji. Judging from the commotion, the progress over there was not bad. Sure enough, by the time Xiaofan arrived, there was already a person lying on the ground. He looked quite miserable. His body had been hit by rocks, shot by arrows, and slashed by knives. There were several wounds on his body. Yanji and the other three were gasping for breath. Well done, Xiaofan said. Xiaofan's words gave Jiao Wu, who was closest to the man, a lot of courage. He had killed people before, but his opponents were wanderers who robbed them of things. The disputes between wanderers were inevitable, and the loser would even be killed. It was the first time for him to have a head-on confrontation with a totem warrior. Clenching his fists tightly, Jiao Wu felt the strength in his fists. Although he was not as strong as Xiaofan, he was full of confidence at this moment. He lifted his big foot wrapped in a worn leather shoe and stepped on the man on the ground. After checking that the man was dead, he raised his head complacently and looked around to see if there were any more people like him. Well, let's get out of here quickly. There are still many people chasing us, and there may be senior totem warriors. We can't fight head-on. If you really want to fight, wait until you reach the tribe and awaken your totem power. Then you can fight however you want. Xiaofan said. Yanji and the others looked at each other and saw the expectation in each other's eyes. Since their ancestors came down to them, they had been suppressed for so many generations. After hiding for so many years, they finally saw the hope of turning things around. For the first time, they felt the blood in their bodies burning and boiling, as if there was a fire hidden in them. In order to prevent the strong wanderers from chasing them, Xiaofan decided to escape first. If the other party had other ways to track them, they had to be more careful. He was not afraid of being alone, and he could even kill the pursuers one by one, just like how he killed the people of the Wuxia tribe in the old haunt. But now he had to take care of Yanji and the others. Xiaofan took Yanji and the others to a place, and asked Cha-Cha to take them from one mountain to another. It was okay to take 2 or 3 people for a short flight. In this way, they could temporarily avoid the pursuers who followed the footprints on the snow. Cha-Cha helped them several times, and then they took advantage of the sunny weather to travel for several days. They didn't encounter any pursuers, but Yang Sui said that it would snow again. This time it would last longer, about 10 days, and there might be heavy snow during that time. If Xiaofan was alone, even in the heavy snow, he could still travel. But with Yanji and the others, he couldn't. He had to find a place to survive the snow first. He didn't want them to get hurt because of the haste. On the day before the snow, Xiaofan didn't continue his journey, but looked for a cave with Cha-Cha. While looking for a cave, Xiaofan also cut some twigs from shrubs and some barks from trees. Yanji and the others thought that Xiaofan only used them as herbs. Xiaofan didn't explain, and only said that they would know when the time came. Finally, Xiaofan found a cave on the mountainside. It was not big, but it was enough for 6 people to rest. There was a bear hibernating in the cave, and they cooked it as food. Before living in the cave, Xiaofan lit the plants he had collected before, and then put out the fire and smoked the cave. Yanji and the others saw a large number of insects running out of the cave. In fact, these insect-repellent plants were not used in the Flaming Horn tribe because they were not as effective as other plants. However, in this place, it was hard to find insect-repellent plants. In winter, many plants would shed their leaves, so it was difficult to find insect-repellent leaves. When everything was done, Xiaofan lit the fire. The 6 people gathered around the fire and talked. "Have you heard of the Dishan tribe?" Xiaofan asked. "The Dishan tribe? I have heard of it before, but I don't have a deep impression. However, the Tianshan tribe is very famous. It is one of the strongest in the central region." Yang Sui said. "What is the relationship between the Tianshan tribe and the Dishan tribe? They are not brothers, are they?" Yanji asked. He was worried that they would bring trouble to the tribe. If the 2 tribes were not small, they would undoubtedly bring big trouble to the tribe. If they caused a lot of trouble before they went back, would the tribe accept them? Not only Yanji, but also Jiao Wu and the others were worried. Yang Sui shook his head. If the Dishan tribe was as powerful as the Tianshan tribe, it would be famous. But will the Tianshan tribe support the Dishan tribe? The names of the 2 tribes sound very related. Jiao Wu said. "Don't think too much. The most important thing now is to go back to the tribe safely. When the tribe really returns, even if the Tianshan tribe wants to make trouble, we will not be afraid of them." Xiaofan said. According to the temperament of the Yanjiao tribe, they would not give in because of who was stronger. Instead, they would fight with high spirits. However, the number of people in the Yanjiao tribe was still not enough. When the tribe returned to the old land, there should be more wanderers coming to find them. At that time, the comprehensive strength of the tribe would naturally improve. Anyway, it was still too early to think about it. Everything had to wait until he went back. After recording this matter on the animal skin roll, Xiaofan planned to go back and discuss it with the shaman. "Where are we going next?" Yanji asked. "Let's go here first." Xiaofan pointed to a place on the map he drew. "We are going to pick up some wanderers like you, called Yan Shua. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.